Okay, welcome everybody to our town board budget meeting. It is Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018. And so, how are we starting off with Rob, or you're gonna do your budget message?
I'm just gonna just do a paragraph or two for my budget message. I
Okay.
have prepared for the board, it was emailed, and also is, you've got hard copies of the budget message for the 2019 tentative budget. It marks the 8th straight year in a row that we will be delivering to the board a budget within the 2% tax cap. This was a particularly challenging budget in light of our $18 million of borrowing that the town board approved earlier this year. The lion's share of that bond, as the board is aware, is to pay for the ambitious $14.1 million infrastructure project to replace our water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater infrastructure in downtown, and then, of course, to do the streetscape. Our ability to be able to repay this bond without cutting services and staying within the tax cap is no small feat. And my hat's off to Rob Deary again this year for being able to pull it off. The impact to our residents under this tentative budget is a $62 a household increase. And interesting, everyone talks about a 2% tax cap, but the law also rewards municipalities if you stay within the 2% or even under the 2%, in that it allows you to take and roll over excess, that amount that you would have been able to charge in a previous year, but you didn't.
Right.
And so when you exercise that restraint, the legislation actually allows you to hold on to it for a year. So under our ability to roll over for this year, we would have been in a position to raise taxes by more than $1 million. Rob was able to actually craft a budget that increased the levy by less than half of that. So still being able to preserve services and being able to handle the significant debt payment that we're going to be responsible for this year. This year's a bit of an anomaly only because of the time we borrowed in February, so our interest payment will be significantly greater this year than it will be in the years coming. And so we were able to fashion that out. Okay, full message is in front of you. And do you want to start? Do you want to lead?
Like the end of the world.
Hi, Bob. That sounds like it.
Yeah.
I left my raincoat in the car. I was like,
That's good.
what are the odds it's gonna rain?
Yeah, we have umbrellas, don't worry, we lend.
That's true.
Yeah, we have a ton of umbrellas.
That's true.
Yes, we do, you're in luck. As long as it's not too windy,
It's a
we're
good
okay.
place to be stuck in that umbrella.
Yeah.
So Rob, I can just mention also that the website is now updated with the current tentative version of the budget. So both OpenGov, our fiscal transparency portal, which you can get to via the controllers tab on the website, as well as a PDF version of the entire budget. Those are all available on the website right now.
Okay, great. We can do the, what is it called, the top thing?
Oh,
is it a
sure,
arrow?
sure, we could do the ribbon
The
for
ribbon.
the website, right.
Tentative budget, click here.
Otherwise known as the top thing.
The top thing, it's the technical term.
Does anyone want me to shut this front light off, or are we good?
Right, we'll see.
Um,
Not because the content is fire. For the rain.
do we wanna start with Sabrina?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, hello. I gave you a summary sheet which reflects the current year's budget, 2018, compared to the proposal for 2019. Overall, there's a difference of an increase in $26,849.02. I have highlighted for you in yellow the lines that are higher than the previous years. And you'll see in green numbers in the difference column, those that are actually less for 2019. You'll notice that the largest increase is actually in our part-time personnel line.
Which is appropriately discussed
Can
during
I stop
executive
you for
session.
just a second? Where is that in here?
So
How do these numbers match the numbers that are in?
the tab You're in the development department? Town engineer.
Yep. It's a composite number of the different departments.
These numbers on the side of the section are the numbers that are reflected in that
So
first
why did you
column.
pull out these lines from
Because
all
the-
of the ones in here?
Because those are the lines where the budget falls. Those are my condensed numbers, with the exception of individual personnel lines in the budget. So if you look at, let me go to an actual page for you.
Internships.
If you go to office supply line on page 34 of 167. If you go to 1440.0410.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see that, so you took out personnel.
Correct, typically
So
because.
this is everything except.
This
Right,
is-
so those are-
Right, the only
Those are
person-
contractual. Sabrina has, I calculate that myself
Correct.
based on the salary schedule in the back, based on hiring dates, steps and promotions and anything like that. The department heads don't do that typically, so that's not a part of the budget that she has any control over, so she,
Okay.
you know, when
Like
she
the
meets with
only-
Jill and I, she just typically would report on budget lines that she has control over.
Right, the
Discretionary.
part-time personnel line is a little bit different because that's not a union-based personnel position, so I provide recommendations to Rob and Jill during our department head meeting, and that's why you have a line in that table that reflects part-time personnel. All other numbers in this, in the chart that I provided you and that I have highlighted for you are actually the supply listings or the membership listings, those lines that are non-personnel. So, as I said before, the largest increase is with the part-time personnel. Other than that, these are changes related to changes in membership for different professional staff in their organizations, dues for the building inspectors. We need a new fax copying machine in the office, our ink supplies, our paper supplies, pens and pencils, supporting our software, our municipal SCA software, our historical archive software, our computer-assisted design software, our geographic information software. So this is really the nuts and bolts of things we need to run the office on a daily basis.
So why did the printing go up so much?
Which line are you referring to, printing and publishing?
Yes.
The printing and publishing line, let me go to that actually. I have line items here.
So as Sabrina looks for that, when we
80/20.
meet with everybody, we require the department heads to actually break down these numbers for us, so they come in with Excel sheets of literally every expenditure that takes and supports that line. So Rob's got a copy in his book, and Sabrina also has the specific Excel sheet that goes with that line.
So the 80/20/0420 was increased due to the comp plan. We had contracted services to maintain the comprehensive plan website, which required a $200 a month maintenance for the website and the hosting services. That's the increase that's reflected in that budget line.
Okay.
But typically, that budget line in totality, the larger expense of $2,600 in that budget line is really for our notifications related to our planning board applications.
Got it.
Because we have to submit to the papers and notify when there's a public hearing or when there's an
Right.
application before the board.
And we collect a fee for that.
We do,
Yeah.
on the other end,
So
we're
you see
collecting
it on the
the
revenue
fees.
side.
Okay. And are we gonna talk about this part-time personnel number?
Yes, in executive session.
So why don't we go through this, fully, and then, before Sabrina has to go, we will discuss that as well. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just checking.
No, it's okay.
What are we doing right now? Seems to be,
Just letting, no, if nobody has any other questions, we can go into executive session and
Okay.
talk about personnel.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Motion to go into executive session,
Second.
all in favor?
That was me.
Okay.
What you gonna do first?
So I thought we'd do,
Right.
if it works for you, the taxes, is that okay?
All right, we'll
Which
do
one are we
receiver
doing
taxes first.
So,
So welcome.
thank you. Everyone, hopefully,
A record.
so the audience at home, Christina Papes, and this is Mary Dean.
We know you
Nice to
guys.
meet
I know,
you.
yeah, I hope.
Let's keep it moving.
Well, we hope to keep
She
it
hangs
moving.
around at the meetings all the time.
We can't have a groupie. We hope that our,
So we appreciate it.
we hope that our budget goes very quickly. There's nothing, Rob can probably take it through it, I'm sure, but there's nothing really out of the ordinary. It's pretty standard what we did. The only thing that is a little different is we're trying to guess what will happen with charitable contributions. We think we know, but it's changed many times over just the past 6 months. So we are, we're ready to handle it.
Christina, can you talk to us a little bit about the contractual services?
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask that.
Sure, so that's where the SCA is charged to, that's those are the people that would be writing the program for the charitable contributions. They also I don't know if you call it like host our online lookup for taxes on our website.
Has that gone up?
We put extra money in there to kind of prepare it for charitable contributions. They gave us a proposal of what they expect it would be, because we based, a couple of months ago when we were doing this, the county was on board, they were gonna do it and all these other things, and there was an interface and there's software that they were gonna write for us. So we still have to, I believe it's responsible budgeting to prepare for what might happen, because as we all know, like the last week of the year, last year, it just goes up and down, and that is to, this line takes that into account, and we're prepared if there is.
So can I ask you a question about that? If we decided to do that, presumably a lot of other municipalities would decide to do that because we think it was clear
Yeah.
enough that we could.
Yes.
Would there be any sort of shared service, do you think, to get that written for us and other
Well, he
municipalities?
did, they wrote that as a shared service, if you would, because he presented that to the group. We have an association of tax receivers, and we were meeting for quite a few months before this proposal came out, and we told them what the needs were, and the county was at the table with us as well. The Director of Finance, Anne Marie Berg, and the County Executive Special Assistant was assigned to this, to write the program for all of us to interface with what the county was prepared to do. So it unfortunately, it does have economies of scale built into it.
So let me speak a little bit to this. So you're going to see significant increases across several departments for this. So this software is developed by a company called SCA, Software
Consulting
Consultants.
services.
Okay, so they do our building department software,
Municipal, yes.
our assessment software, our receiving software, our town clerk software. So they are in the process of upgrading pretty much their whole suite of services. It's going to be on our backs and everybody else that uses that software. It's going to be, so you're going to hear about a significant increase from the tax assessor of what they need to do to upgrade that system. They
Josh
have-
is gonna talk to you about
Josh will
that
talk
tomorrow.
We don't wanna go out to find out,
There
There
are
are
I
two
don't know
options.
what that would entail,
There are two
but-
options for tax assessing. And the other option, we don't like as a software package. But the issue also at this point is could we even get in with them because
Sure, I know.
the backlog to get in there right now. So, you know, Josh is gonna share that with you, but you will see, so it's across all of these that they presented increased fees in addition to proposals to upgrade their software. So this company also has always worked on a piecemeal basis. When you call them, when we had changes in the STAR,
Yeah.
we all get billed for it, even though they have to do it for everybody. So by contrast, for KVS, the accounting software, if there's a change that needs to be made, a change in the federal tax code, they did the withholding taxes, they make it for everybody. They don't charge you for it because it's something all their clients use. This company does the upgrade and then charges each. So if it costs them $20,000 to develop it with $20,000 to pay somebody to write the code, they're gonna split that $20,000 over the 33 municipalities that use their software, and you're gonna pay for it. So that's how they've always worked. We are looking at other options, the other option for that, but unfortunately, they are the one software that kind of ties the building and with the assessment and with the collection, and there are other people that do it piecemeal. This one does it all, so it's not, we had a meeting.
So in aggregate, what are we talking about across all departments?
You're not gonna hear about building until next year. The tax assessment was like $20,000, I think.
But that's for the new program altogether.
For the new
This isn't
program
even,
altogether.
yeah,
This-
so this only incorporates
Right.
This one was
the
like
upgrade
5,600
for
or
the,
something.
So the only thing
This was just
here,
a fix,
the
yeah.
thing here that could be reduced out of here might be $4,800 for the charitable contribution. So, I mean, that, the tax receiving software right now, we had to pay back in December when we had that
Yeah.
real quick decision.
advanced billing.
We had to pay them because our system was not designed to take
partial payments.
partial payments. So we had to be able to
To
get a
reconcile
patch to
that.
be able to take that. So now, you know, that $4,800 represents what they would charge us to write that new code to be able to accept however this was with the county or somebody else collecting the money, but then forwarding the payment information to us.
School
And,
districts.
yeah, so you will see this in different departments, and they are talking about upgrading building department, and that would not probably be until 2020 because.
And the upgrade to the building department would digitize records finally?
No, we have our records digitized.
Now, I thought with Sabrina, there was all this manual labor.
Ah,
Yeah. So
Fair enough.
unfortunately, you will see that coming up, and we kind of determined that we're between a rock and a hard place. There are not a lot of great options.
Is it because this company is specific to New York State?
I think so. I think that has a little bit to do with it.
But so is our other option, right? RPS
Right, so
is
RPS
also
is New
AD.
York State also. So basically, I think Westchester and Long Island, a lot of them use SCA, and I think most of the upstate municipalities use RPS. So,
It's cheap, but it's not quite as we don't think it's quite as user friendly, it doesn't integrate with the assessment program, which.
but the problem is,
Ultimately, long
they're-
run, it saves hours.
but they're upgrading that too. They're upgrading the other option too. So we couldn't get in on the old version yet. We'd have to get in on the new version, of which there's a waiting list, and there's just not a great
And nobody's
solution.
beta tested anything, and it's like a leap of faith, it's, yeah, it's.
We're not happy with it.
That's an understatement. Accurate. Okay. That's about it for, anything else for tax?
No, that's
Wanna
pretty,
switch on over to clerk?
yes.
It's complicated hierarchy.
Yeah, we call that, we were joking about our flow chart, we call it the drip chart. Well, not flow, but.
It's cute. Simple.
Okay, so, again, much of what we do is, relatively stable year to year, and have the, get everything in front of you.
How come the drop in records management?
The records management was, we hadn't used it
We
the
weren't using it.
previous year, And then we did get money this year, and what we do is we, again, plan for if the county shredder isn't available. So we've been very lucky that the county, we schedule it early, the county's shredder is available to us, and that saves us money. And but they won't guarantee it in the year forward. So we do that to make sure, and we do have we do purge a lot of records in accordance with our the New York State MU1 schedule, and literally tons of paper we get rid of in that one day. Everybody comes in, and we like to keep that, and we're actually kind of proud of how we do the records.
The governor's office keeps on calling, which is nice, but.
You can take it.
No, it's the Lower Hudson, just to see if we're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, tell them no, our power's out and they should help us get our liaison.
Yeah, aren't we like 75% of the power in
Yeah,
our,
it's us.
Right now.
Northern Westchester is us?
Yeah, when
Text
you
them right
come
now.
coming back with a liaison.
1,500 around, 900 around.
Oh, goodness.
Isn't that special?
Well, you don't want to bother with all this, we can go.
And
Alright, I don't really have.
your
questions.
budget is typically one that does not change very much over the years.
I know, most of what we do
Carries
is
here.
not discretionary, so.
Perfect.
But we are proud of the amount of things we process, including our increasing number of train station permits that we sell every year, and trying to keep up with customers' demand, to provide excellent customer service, exceed expectations, reduce counter time for the residents. That's it. It's my whole, are we good?
Yep, I'm just gonna listen to the question, yeah.
All right.
Alright.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, thank you.
Going solo?
We warmed them up for you.
Sorry, when you know you're a moment too late, that's it, we like bring the next person in.
You lose, you don't get any money next year.
Sorry, they took all your vehicles.
Great,
We gave them all to Christina.
yeah. So we have 8 crews in town already, for the trees and stuff down
I guess
there.
all of my telephone calls and charming messages worked.
The liaison's downstairs already, he's on a conference call, seeing how many more we're gonna get, so.
Well, that's good.
So, Shingle House, 100 from Hidden Hollow to Pamela, 133 in the vicinity of Quaker, 7 bridges between Quaker and McKesson, and then some up at Roaring Brook and over Roaring Brook, so. And there was some stuff without wires, and DPW's working on that, so.
Yeah, Jerry told me that he's got crews in, and I'll call in more if he
I
needs.
mean, the good thing is, bad thing is just us as always, but the good thing is it's only us,
Only
because
us.
we're getting some assets.
Well, and when I called Orlando and Jane, I said, we won this time, hands down. It's us, only us, could you, yeah, so that's great.
The
Glad
state
to-
is setting up the emergency control center in Hawthorne, they said,
Okay.
Wow.
the governor.
Was there actually a
Should've set it up with
tornado?
us,
I don't know.
we're the only game in town.
If you're gonna, yeah, the best, Douglas to Campfire and Hardscrabble to get to the Conic is open at this point, but they're expecting more storms to come too, so we'll see what happens.
They are?
That's what they said.
We should, if we get a chance, we should issue a few more nixels for the road closures, because I only saw one.
I sent the one out, right, and as soon as I could early.
Right.
I figure once we get an idea of exactly the main ones that'll do it, we'll hit it again tonight before.
Right, okay, good, thanks.
And then maybe in the morning.
Maybe throw in there also how many crews we got, if you know there's 7 crews, just throw it in there.
Okay.
People like to see that.
Can I say something about
But
the Nixles
if there's one
before
crew,
we
don't throw it in
forget?
there, only if there's 7 crews.
Right. Before I forget, I got a ton of complaints from merchants about either the Nixles or the Code Reds that went out in connection with the book fair that basically said, don't come to downtown.
Did you read
They
the
didn't
Nixle?
say that though.
Did you read the Nixle?
It said there's gonna be traffic.
There's
Right.
congestion and to plan ahead,
I know,
watch out for
but they got-
pedestrians,
they
yada
got-
yada.
None of them got
So we
any,
had close to 7,000 people come in town. How many X's would we have gotten if we didn't set it up, or complaints?
well, I know, but people know it's there. Well, it's coming.
I know I did, I said it, and I wrote it, so I know it didn't say, don't come shopping. And
No,
then it said,
Today's book fair will impact travel to and around the Chappaqua Business District from 9:30 to 4:30.
I don't know, they all
It was,
freaked out.
it was
You know, we
a
do it
couple of
for
merchants.
the 10K, we do it for those time frames of Ragamuffin, we do it.
Yeah.
The truth is also that, you know,
Maybe
years,
next time we can say
It's-
local merchants are still open.
in years past,
Or
Or just say,
something.
come join, come celebrate the downtown, but be aware that.
Plan for traffic.
Yeah.
in years,
Pay attention.
ever since this book festival started, and with Community Day as well, whenever we have events on this side of town, the merchants down on, you know, Lower King and
I know, they
over
always do
there are,
poorly.
do terrible. So honestly, it's, I don't think it's because of the Knicks alert. I know they're saying it's because of the Knicks alert, but every single year we have complaints about, and every single year, quite honestly, we say to the book festival, which does an incredible job, but
Try to incorporate
yeah, it'd be nice if
downtown,
we
like get
incorporate the whole
Clifford
town.
down there or something,
Right, exactly,
yeah.
because the other store, they tried to do.
They had a story walk throughout
Yeah,
downtown.
but it doesn't, and listen, when I happened to be in Wimbledon this past summer, and when you walk to Wimbledon, you walk through like this little business district, every single store has tennis balls hanging in cute displays, everything's about tennis in the whole town. That's how this should be with the book festival. Every single store should have window decorations about books, and the whole town should be about this book festival for weeks leading up to it. And you know, it still hasn't been, you know,
Unfortunately,
Raced it up.
Starbucks, we crossed a lot of people going towards town, but I'm sure it was also Starbucks. You know, that's where they wanted to go, they weren't gonna go to the big merchants, especially with little kids.
Right, the little kids are not going for a shop.
Maybe, yeah, because certainly a consideration that downtown stores are still open and they're, everything's 25% off, right?
Right.
But we did try a sidewalks, you know, sale one year, but it's tough, it's, you know.
It's actually a good idea, we should try that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I just don't forget. But you guys did a great job, there were so many people here and I felt so
Yeah.
much for you, you guys really did a great job.
I was out there directing traffic even, I
Saw you.
One of the guys made
Nice.
fun of me, he's like, you still know how to do it? I go, I've been doing it longer than you've been born.
And the answer is no, I don't.
It went well though, consider it.
Okay.
Chief?
Alright.
Okay, so, we'll just look at the budget preparation report, I guess. How do you want me to do this? Want me to go line by line, what areas that are increased? I know one particular question is the overtime budget is up. I can explain that. The overtime budget, the two things that are in there that are increasing it are traffic enforcement and coverage in the schools. So we have Michelle Mazzocchi is assigned to Carrs Community High School for the school year, but her schedule is still the schedule she has here, so there's one day a week that she's not in the school. And so we backfill that. We have another officer who's a trained SRO who will go in there most of the time when he's working, but there are gonna be times we have to bring somebody in overtime to backfill. So that's we put $27,105 for that, it could be less.
The overtime for the school versus this year is a result of, I mean, it's the same, right? It's still backfilling for Michelle and.
Well, we didn't do that, we only did that like the final month last year.
Yeah,
The
we
last
didn't
month
really
of
have
school's
that
the
on.
time.
No, I'm talking for this year.
Yeah, for this year, we have Michelle is in the school, or we have an officer assigned to the school, and that's,
And is the
But
school
it's-
paying us at all for
the
this?
school is, right now, the school's not paying us for it. The school is paying for any overtime we have as far as football games, after-school meetings, they're gonna reimburse us for that. It is possible we could have a conversation to see if we can get them to cover this, and they may do that. My hope is in January that, you know, they're gonna start paying more.
No, I guess-
Or if not next year, but I'm hoping into January.
No, I guess the thing is, if we haven't changed anything in if 2018 is a reflection of 2019 staffing, is 2018 a reflection
Well,
of
they would,
2019
yes, I know.
staffing?
No, as far as the overtime?
As far as the presence, the
Oh,
presence
yeah,
of people in the
right,
school?
you're right, because we're in 18 now, so the remainder
Right.
of this year, we'll be paying that for the remainder of this year.
Because it looks, so when did that start? Because it's still we're coming in on budget.
Well, it started like in June, and then right before the summer,
Yeah, we don't get anything over
And
the
we-
Right, you're not really seeing any of that from this year. Not a whole lot, because this budget was printed on 9/21, And if the school year started in September, you have maybe one pay period that had overtime from this included and going back to June maybe, so
Well,
you're
it's, I'm
not
just,
seeing
you
a
know,
lot
it's
of it.
$60,000 of overtime, so it's a lot.
Well, that's
Well,
only,
it's
that's,
not, that's part of it.
that's
Well,
the 27.
it's part, so it's a breakdown. So when you go through the budget message, I sort of break everything
That's-
out and explain what the costs are. But so it's two component parts. It's the officer, the overtime for the officer, the SRO, but also the additional enforcement.
So the SRO, we're figuring 1 day a week. It's probably
So
gonna be
that's the
less than that, but
27,
that's like,
right?
Parking
no,
enforcement.
the 33,000.
Traffic
Where-
enforcement.
Traffic enforcement where? At the high school? Connected
No,
with-
no, this is traffic enforcement, as far as writing tickets,
Oh,
for, yeah,
details.
for details. We had a traffic officer, he retired when Chad Galanick left, and we haven't replaced that position as a traffic officer. So since around, just before Chad left, around June, we've been throwing traffic details out, 2 details a week, 4 hours a week, or 8 hours a week, 16 hours a paycheck. That's total for the whole department. During that time, though, the officers doing it issued over 300 tickets that bring in about $75 apiece, which is well beyond
Cost.
what all the cost is. So that was, unfortunately, the person who was doing the bulk of that was Joseph Nieves, who now went to Yonkers, so we're gonna find another officer who's interested in writing tickets and keep that going.
We found a couple too that are interested, but have been increasing and starting to take detail.
So that's the main increase with the overtime. The only other thing you that is the contractual increases, and also our new officers, every year that they're here now, their salaries go up, so the salary rises.
I want to point out a couple of differences between what the chief asked for in the personnel lines from the department's head stage, which is what the chief asked for, versus the admin stage. So for salaries, what the chief did, and I assume you're just taking everybody's salary at the end of the year, or you're taking their total salary. What I have done in that line is I've taken everybody by hire date. So I literally have 4 pay periods at the old rate, 22 pay periods at the new rate. I've gone into that detail, so that's why that number differs from what he gave you. His calculation wouldn't have been wrong if they were a whole year at a single rate, but my calculation is exact. The second point I'll make is under holiday pay. What the chief always gives you is his total liability. So contractually, we're obligated to, the officers are able to take their holiday pay in pay or in days off. What he has given you is the total number if they were to take it in pay. If you look through the history, they don't take it all in pay. So I reduce that to what I think is a manageable number that actually reflects what they do. So again, the chief isn't wrong in his methodology, but that never happens, so there's no reason to keep $60,000 extra in the budget for something that's not going to happen. So that's why I adjust that. Similarly with, well, I think our numbers for longevity were spot on, so we had no changes there.
Any questions about overtime? So I think the next thing you might see there is the vehicles, and I'm gonna let Lieutenant Carroll is gonna explain about the vehicles.
Thank you, Chief. Just want to pass these around. Sure. So this is what we asked for, and I actually asked for 5 cars, and they cut us down to 2.
3?
3, thank you, sorry.
We're not that evil, Jim, come on.
It seemed like it at the time.
Yeah, I know.
But one of the issues is that we have 3
And we
cars.
even let them come with their, bullets in their guns, and they're like, oh, you are the best, thank you. Sustenance for the group.
I need that sustenance, pass it over.
Mine's best,
I
that
could
is
tell.
dangerous.
Ooh, Giraldi, yum.
Okay,
So we have, if you look at the breakdown, we currently have 4 marked patrol vehicles with over 100,000 miles, 103, 104, and this was as of July. And the 117, and then an unmarked vehicle for detectives that has 142,000 miles on it. Now, the standard for a police vehicle is about 120,000 miles, and that includes all the idling time. And they actually say if you add the idling time, you should add another 100,000 miles to that vehicle. So a vehicle with 120,000 miles on it really has 220,000 miles on it. So we are in desperate need of a few vehicles. I think they took away one marked one and the F-150 truck we were looking for.
Come on,
Okay.
we told you that you can use the one in the town hall.
Yeah, they did,
Come
they did.
on.
It's not perfect, it doesn't have a hitch, but you know, we do have some equipment to tow around and
I'll pay for the hitch.
arcades
You
and
set up for a Prius?
a Prius for the detective for the unmarked.
Yeah, people
would think?
Yeah.
take it
No, we
really
think.
seriously.
Yeah.
That is in Prius.
Well, you know what? It's incognito, right? So they wouldn't do it.
There actually is a bit of a problem with that because they have to be our vehicles are certified pursuit vehicles.
Oh.
So they're certified to go at higher speeds and chase people, so if we're in a Prius trying to chase someone and we have
They could outrun
a
you.
liability problem, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand if, you know, budget constraints, so.
We don't bond these vehicles as capital expense of any kind?
No.
No, we pay them out straight out in
These
cash.
these are typically vehicles that are 3 years, we don't bond them, no.
Yeah,
You
we'd
can't
like to
lease
get,
them.
we'd like to get 6 years out of them, you know, from start to finish, and that's about 120, and again, the 220 miles.
I don't think the actual, I don't know what they give me as the useful life, maybe 5 years if we tried to bond them, but we don't do that.
So we're gonna get 2 patrol and 1 unmarked?
Yes, so we'll replace number 58, the Explorer with 142,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
Then we'll replace the 2014 Interceptor number 41 with 117.
yeah.
I'll have to push one of them to the next year. Next year's actual projection is a little low, you know, to try to do it, and then, you know, balance the miles amongst the other ones.
Do any of these cars have like repeated mechanical issues? I mean, forget about the mileage, is there any like cars that are just,
Not just the older they get, there's more costs. I never really get a good accurate report of the maintenance records. It's done by the highway department, they bill us, but I don't really get a breakdown by vehicle to know so much what's going on.
I can tell you that they hate that 47, the 2010 Charger, and it's the oldest car in the fleet with that many miles on it, but there was an issue with the computer, and we updated the computer, so we'll get more miles on that now. That would be the first one to go next year.
Is that the only one that's not Ford?
That's the only one that's not Ford at this point, yes.
Yeah, our mechanics are really.
And
don't-
we're
they're not
replacing
nice.
44 also? Cause we're getting 3 cars, right?
So this year, I would do the two highest ones, which would be correct, 4 and 4.1,
Yep.
5.8.
and then 5.8.
Right.
And the 4.6 would have to wait. And that's fine, next year's probably gonna be 4.6 and 4.7, honestly.
So the way you determine when the vehicle should be replaced is strictly based on their mileage?
I would think that that's mostly what we go by, yes, just because it's, our cars are out there, while they're not always being pressed, they are being used, and even, you know, idle and downtime still adds wear
And
and
we
tear
sell
on
them
them.
as surplus.
They do.
We've been told by the insurance company in the past that after 100,000 miles, they should be refurbished, fully refurbished. We've kind of pushed that forward a little bit to 110, 120, because we see we get more mileage out of them, but
Yeah.
that could be a good question to ask of the insurance company, but they're definitely, when you get this type of mileage, there's not much useful life left, so we don't get much for them.
And I am serious about the hitch. If you need a hitch,
All
we'll
right.
put a hitch on the car. Because we have a F-150 that's part of the town hall fleet that sits out in front, and so they want to use it to be able for barricades and things like that when we have events, which are usually weekends and evenings and things like that. So it's not an issue, it just sits out there.
what about like a cool little like golf cart type car? I don't know.
Segways.
Ricky won a Segway at one point, yeah, he did.
I saw you guys at bikes also, you know, your book festival.
Yep.
One was donated, you saw that article?
I didn't see the article.
I'm sorry, I don't know the guy's name, his son was killed, he had the twins down
Oh,
here.
Ben Chow donated?
Donated.
Oh, I know.
Donated a bike with like his son's name on it.
Oh,
It was done kind of on the,
No, he would.
it was done kind of the straight, it was done through the PBA and Bob Coolum, and I was never asked to be added, I saw the article in the paper. The PBA came in and told me, I kinda thought that PBA would probably have to donate that to the town, but we didn't get to that point yet.
Yeah, they haven't, so.
But yeah, it was a really nice thing they did, but it didn't get the press that it should have.
Yeah, we did have a bike unit years ago, but officers got older and the bikes got older, and now that we have some younger officers, they asked to try to get it started again, and we did, we reconditioned one bike with all the other parts, and then we got the one donated. Guys bought their own equipment and gear, because they were really interested in starting, so maybe see more of it in the future.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I liked it too, I saw them on community day.
Sends the right message.
Do you want to talk about the radio system upgrade?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
You're talking about the repeater,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
electronic.
So, I'm sorry, but just before we get off of this,
Of course.
you guys are okay with this? With the
Oh.
3 instead of the 5? You're shaking your head no, you're not okay with
No,
this.
I mean, I could do away with the truck and make do with other stuff, but if I could get 3 marked vehicles, I would want 3 marked vehicles.
I'm sorry, you could do away with what truck?
The one on the bottom that got cut,
They
the
didn't need
2019
that
F-150.
Right.
So, I mean, that was cut out, and so was one of the marked vehicles.
Right.
I mean, my hope would be to get it all, but we'll take what we can get, but yes, 3 marked and 1 marked, unmarked would be our preference.
I think it's prudent to kind of get the useful life out of the cars rather than replacing them before 100,000 miles.
And you can't give them what they ask, I mean, they're asking.
I asked for 5.
Exactly, because you knew you were gonna get 3.
Yeah,
If you wanted 5, you'd ask for 10.
yeah, exactly.
We don't do that.
No, they only asked for 7. so
Before you go
that's
into the
good.
repeater, which is, I don't know where it's buried in this budget, I just have this question because it seemed like, a disconnect for me. You have uniform boots and then officer uniform allowance. The uniform boots went down 40%, but the officer uniform went up 40%. And I kind of figured the two of them would be in lockstep with each other.
So where are you seeing uniform boots? Because there's one item that's contractual, the officers get the
Right.
uniform.
Yeah.
No,
allowance.
I understand that.
31, 25, 50.
So the uniform allowance is something based on the contract and they're just given an amount of money. They can
So it just
request
so
that.
happens this year, because you would
They
think
don't
that-
always request it, well,
you would just
they
think
have
it
to
would kind
request it,
of-
they have to go out and buy something and then give us receipts.
Right.
If they don't do that, shame on them, and that's how come that can fluctuate, so we put the amount of
Okay,
money
I
that
just needed to understand,
they're
or you think boots
contractually
and
entitled.
uniforms would
When
be the,
didn't
go
they
up
used to get
together?
it, even if they were out on 501c, they used to get the, I seem to remember something like that.
Yes, that's correct.
Are you-
Until
the boots,
7C.
One person did.
Remember?
I think when you're looking at the boots also, is that,
Yeah,
31,
28, there's
550?
5, oh, yeah, oh,
that's,
550.
I think that's non-sworn personnel, that's for like the.
So that's uniforms for the crossing
Yeah, they get
guards
blue,
and,
pair of boots every year for
Oh,
like the
got
civilian
it,
employees.
thanks, I appreciate it,
and the,
that makes sense then. A lot of boots.
Boots on the
Fair
ground.
enough.
okay, so what I think Jim is talking about, and he can explain, and I'll just tell you why and why it was taken out of the budget, not that we don't intend to do it. In communications, the chief asked for 72,204, I took the 60,000 out. We're either gonna try to pay for that with funds from this year if we can get that taken care of, or we're gonna make it a capital project because it is capital expense.
Okay.
So, I talked to Paz, I haven't got back with him about what's happening. I mean, we know that it has to be replaced, so maybe you can tell the board what it is that we're replacing for $60,000.
Sure. Our computer system, our radios work this way. We have 3 receivers located at Whipple, Millwood Road, and out in Glendale. What they do is they'll pick up the portable radios because they're weaker, and they take that transmission, send it over a phone line to the transmitter at Alpine. They do that by copper wires. Verizon has informed all the municipalities that they're no longer gonna service copper lines. So it needs to be replaced by fiber optic. They will install the new fiber optic, the only change, we pay a service to them now, they'll still pay the service, but it's digital versus analog, so now the signal's gotta come in and all the equipment has to be upgraded to change it from an analog to a digital signal. I have a breakdown if you guys want the amount, but it's about $60,000 for all the work to be done.
Where I left it with Lieutenant Pasmino was that, he had a quote for it, but at $60,000, a single quote is not gonna be acceptable. So, our discussion was that number one, he would reach out to other municipalities that have completed this, because we also didn't know from the Verizon end, it's Verizon, right?
Yes.
The Verizon end, what the work entailed. We talked to Glenn Sullivan, he said that's not something that he does. So, Paz was gonna follow up with some of the other municipalities to see how they completed it, and if they had other vendors that we could solicit quotes for.
I did speak
For
with
the hardware.
I did speak with the radio company who did supply the bid, and they said, you know, all the equipment should be supplied by us except for the optic. That's the only thing that Verizon's gonna do in between.
Verizon is.
So the other expenses are supposed to be on us. But I'm sure Pat's gonna look into that.
Right, but the equipment itself, I
The
mean.
equipment itself is all in a breakdown from here, but
Right, from Goose, but does somebody else provide that? So in other words, you have a quote, but it's a significant amount that is above our procurement policy that needs more
Sure.
than one quote, so.
Okay.
You know, unless that happens to be proprietary, that it only works with the radio system that we
I
have.
got you.
And we're forced to buy from them.
That's probably not the case. We probably will need other quotes.
Right, but that's why it was removed from next year's operating budget, because we either anticipate paying for it this year or making it a capital project.
It's obviously
So-
something we need to do, because
to do,
it's
yes.
fine as long as everything's functioning, but as soon as one of those lines go down and they're not doing it, then we lost
Yeah.
our portable radios.
Yeah. And do we know, are there any grants available for something like that?
I'm not aware. We could look into that though.
Good idea.
Okay, and Paz is taking care of the multiple quotes.
Yes, Paz is working on this, yes.
Is there usually grants for that type of work?
No?
I've never seen that being a grant. I mean, it's not something I can see a grant for. something.
Doesn't everybody use that repeater? Fire departments, ambulance,
I don't know if they use a repeater, I really don't know.
no?
I mean, they do communicate with us through that repeater, but they don't communicate amongst themselves with that, I don't think. But they certainly, you know, do communicate with us, you know, when they're responding to something. Think we could make them share the,
I
No,
don't
I'm
think that's
just
what she's
thinking,
going.
Yeah.
I wasn't, no, I wasn't thinking, I mean, yeah, it has to be done, but I was just wondering if, you know, it's a first responder kind of infrastructure.
How old is this system that we're using?
It's been, I mean, the same system since I've been here.
It's been at least 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
Holly,
For
did
the
you
actual
replace your
receivers.
communication systems when you redid the fire station?
We did replace our communication systems.
So I'm wondering if they've already upgraded to fiber, because that, it would have made sense.
The whole building's
It's a-
fiber at
yeah.
this point, but.
Yeah.
But I
Because
do
you got
believe that
completely
we,
wired.
I do believe we use the Alpine repeater
Okay.
in some way, so I'll, you know, we should probably reach out and find out. Cause I
I'm
think,
curious if Chappaqua gonna end up having to do the same sort of thing, just because their building's older and, you know.
Right. So I wonder if you use our receivers as well. That's what I'm wondering on your portables. Or would you guys use just from the firehouse?
no, I
You're not.
I think we can pick you up on the route.
Oh, you certainly can pick us up. You certainly can communicate with us.
But it's been a while since I've been actually on a fire scene. We should really at least we should probably reach out and find out, just to make sure that there's, if it's nothing, it's nothing, but if it is something, we should just let them know.
Who,
Of
who
course.
would we ask?
Well, I would reach out to Chief Rodriguez, and it's Chief, just having a brain fart, right? Chief of Chappaqua, and we should reach out to ambulance just to be safe.
I,
Maitland?
Chappaqua?
No, it's not
No,
Maitland,
this is-
it's there was a
Bologna?
nickname, but I don't wanna use the nickname.
It's
If we check our
No,
9/11
Who's it again?
emails,
Use his nickname. Who's
Jill,
it
if we
again?
check the 9/11 emails, he was on it, whoever.
John Maduris?
It's Sean Doris.
That's what I thought, yeah, that's what I thought.
Doris and Peter Marcone from Cedar.
Right, Peter Marco.
Okay. And it's Verizon who's
It's
told us that
Verizon,
they're not.
yep.
Yeah.
Can the fiber cable be run before the equipment's in place, or what order does all that have to be in?
They said it's gonna take a couple of day process and it's almost gonna be simultaneous. They're probably right next to it, but yeah, we'll have 2 repeaters go down and work on the other ones and then switch when we switch over.
I'm just wondering if, you know, utilities, it's usually there's usually a delay from when you think you want something done to when they actually do it, so, you know, if we have to order that service to be in place or the fiber to be put down before we, you know, 'cause so we go ahead and buy the equipment and it's sitting there and we don't have the fiber or.
No, it'd have to be some
I don't know what
coordination on
order
the
that-
install for sure.
Yeah.
So we have some increases also in conference and travel and training. Fees go up obviously all the time, it's not a huge increase. And conference and travel, we had a conference for the scheduling system we have downstairs. They have an annual conference in New Jersey where they're based out of. And so we need to get, we're upgrading our software on that, and they need to get that training. Just when it comes across the desk here, the training is gonna be in Atlantic City, because that's where they are. So, but it is an important
Additions of
conference.
Mr. Peanut on the boardwalk.
What's going on with Impact these days, is there any update with that?
Impact is, yeah, there's a lot of issues. I'm glad Glenn Sullivan didn't go to that Impact 3, because everybody had a problem, and
Yeah.
the new companies were kind of backing off of it.
Yeah.
Did you just go to the
I
conference?
did. There's no sunset date yet, or at least it's not gonna be till January 2020 for them to stop servicing the current Impact. So we still have time for them to work out all the bugs. They keep making excuses how they haven't serviced us and haven't prepared and haven't done it right, but they're working at it and they're getting better. They were just bought out by somebody else who is a bigger company. But as long as this one's used, you know, the one we're currently using is working, and they haven't fixed the other stuff, and they're still servicing this one, so we're gonna stay like with this one as long as we possibly can.
Are we obligated to go to the new Impact? I
They're
mean,
gonna stop servicing it, and at some point, and then when it fails, it fails. At that point, we're gonna have to transfer over before.
is there an option, is there competing, is there anything else?
There isn't yet. The county's starting to look at a few things. You know, and if they go and then other people go, but I mean, I think the cost would be prohibitive
Yeah.
at this point. I think they kind of have us over a barrel.
We're in that same situation with other software in the building, it's just,
Right.
you kinda get locked in with somebody and it's hard,
I'm glad we still have time.
yeah,
There's a lot of records in there.
yeah.
And I saw that new electronic sign for the book festival, it was pretty sweet.
I think it's the nicest one, yeah.
It's nice.
There's a
I
new
like
one
that
on-
arrow.
There's a new one at Hardscrabble we put up yesterday. It says, "Thank you if you're below, between below the speed
I
limit."
thought that's what you're talking about.
But no, I was
He meant the
talking
big,
about
the
the
Michael one.
Oh,
book fair one, but you're talking about the speed radar sign.
The speed radar sign that says "Thank you if you're below the speed," and then it says "Slow down," and then it says, you know, "Too fast." That's the messages to
we
it.
can make it say whatever we want.
You should modify that slow down message.
I set up the sign up at the top, and I made sure I locked it because last thing I see some kid coming in and changing the message coming into town. I was like, "Oh, that's all I need."
Slow down, I'm telling you. No, I was talking about the book festival one, the
Yeah,
arrow.
and it might be out tomorrow. Just for somewhere, you know, detour. You know, depending on how quickly we get,
Yeah, there you go.
you know, finished up.
So Chief, there's not any other significant
No,
increases or
I think
decreases over
that's,
prior year?
I kind of circled the one here, and I think that's
Yeah.
the end of my circles. So do you have any other questions?
Did we get another car?
Nope.
No.
So let's just dangle the carrot in front of me.
Well, I was a little sympathetic, but I think that made me.
Oh, Jeremy.
Okay, what do you-
Now, so you would've got the other car.
Hang out for 10 more minutes?
You want a better one?
What's I was looking up
was
my
gonna
head to the
rain?
I don't
right.
have an umbrella either,
it was
but
gonna
it's the
rain.
same. Look at that
I hope you put some giant books in the fridge.
All right, thanks.
Alright, thank you,
Thank you
gentlemen.
so much.
Gotta get out of here before Jeremy's question.
Take care.
Yeah, let's get at that.
Good night.
Thanks.
All right, what's next here?
We kept on thinking, yeah, oh, Uber, it's gonna go, it's gonna go, it's gonna go.
Train things.
Uber might have been bad too.
Yeah, but it's the.
Which
this
train
looks
is
like
that bad?
This
train
looks
were
like
you on?
the station, it's like we about an extra 100,000 people living in this town. It's just packed.
Why, the last train stopped here?
Yeah, it's stopping
Yeah.
here, right? And people like going southbound are backing up to
They
Sawmill
can't
to kind of, to try to come back on to pick up their family. So we're just backed up southbound.
It's good for the bar business at Chapel Station.
Yeah, I was waiting to see, like in Pete Station, Chapel Station, but
So, do we have, Ike, is Ike here?
He's here, he's coming.
Okay, good.
What train were you on, Jeremy?
I was on the 529. Yeah, I think it was, I just missed the express, so it was in the local.
Probably wouldn't have made a difference.
No,
No, Jay's on the 6:10 and I don't know, I just got a map and I'm not sure what that is, but it's not here.
I added Dr.
there was a
Stone.
train whistling just about a minute or two ago, I heard. I don't know if it was southbound or northbound.
That's good.
So, is this thing still on? Do we shut it off?
Yeah, you can pause it.
We should. Jill, you want me to pop the cord?
Okay, it's back. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, or Recreation and Parks. We should switch that at some point.
What's that? Title?
Recreation and Parks instead of Parks and Rec.
It is recreation.
It's recreation.
I know, but it should be Parks and Rec.
That's only because it was like a very popular series, but.
It's true.
Yeah.
And he's at Art-
It kinda goes a little smoother too, Parks and Rec.
It does.
Yeah.
Say it instead of Rec and Park.
Whatever.
I don't get
Goes
caught,
off
I don't
the tongue
get,
easier.
I'm not, offended if someone says Parks and Rec instead of Rec and Parks, I don't.
Bob Snyder was never happy when people.
Parks and Rec.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't get hung up on that. We're all one department, it's all good either way.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having me, appreciate it. I don't know if, is there anything in particular you want me to go over first, is there, you just kinda wanna go through the book?
Yeah, you wanna go through it, you wanna start with the contractual services, or you wanna go down to other stuff, or?
Is there any, are there any highlights up or down
That anybody,
that you wanna talk about, or we can?
Like the 20% increase in, it's not that much, but in contractual services.
and
Or seasonal help actually went up a lot.
Well, the contractual services all has to do with our grass cutting adventure this year.
well, so that's, I guess that's probably,
Well, that's some.
No.
which one are we looking at? We're looking at,
Like seasonal help, A on page 55 of 167.
for the parks, so,
Yeah.
alright, so that's kind of a,
Alright, so
we can lead off with that,
so,
I don't know,
yeah, I'll lead into it.
go for it.
So currently this year, we have a grass cutting contract with a company. When we went out to bid earlier in the year, we had two bids. One came in around 60,000, the other came in around 125,000. So we took the $60,000 bid. They are not doing a very good job. Most likely, they can't provide the service at that, with prevailing wage and everything else. They are not able to really provide what they said they were going to. So we've been talking about this for a few weeks and what do we do? So the other bid was 125, it was over double, and we only got two bids, there weren't a whole lot of options.
And that was, not to cut you off, but it was similar to last year as well.
Yeah.
We had one ultra low bid, or two low bids, and then one that was in that 120 to 130 range again last year, so.
So we started to talk about moving this in-house. What would it cost? So Ike put together a proposal for us on what it would cost. So what our proposal is, we're planning to hire one other parks laborer, a full-time position, and two other seasonal people, which the seasonal line increased.
And that would be considered the mowing crew.
Right.
and
And
that's
then the
sufficient,
grass
3 is
contract
sufficient.
went down,
Yes,
and then the grass contract comes off.
And the grass contract comes off, and you'll see
Correct.
that in a couple different
Different
lines.
side.
It doesn't all come off of rec, because some of it was included in, buildings and grounds in the, public works budget too, so it's in a couple different places in the budget. But, so, yeah, that amount comes out, and it replaces with the personnel, which was one full-time this season. So obviously, since we haven't been doing it, personnel is not the only component. We have to buy equipment to do this.
Right.
So Ike and Jonathan came up with the proposal. It's about $140,000 for the mowing equipment that they're estimating will last them about 10 years.
This sort of comes into sort of a larger conversation, and I'm not against it, just a larger conversation about, you know, we've got this recommendation of bringing it in-house for Parks and Rec, and then we have the downtown
It's
business
actually tied-
district. We've got
Exactly
all
right.
of this stuff, but what I haven't actually seen is a head-to-head comparison. So we're gonna have an increase in equipment that'll get advertised, grab an increase in staff, which then becomes part of a union relationship with associated benefits. And while, you know, right now things are great, you know, if we wanna stay under the 2% tax cap and we need to reduce and or eliminate staff going forward in the future, what are some of the risks?
So one of the things that the board had talked about was having a larger role in the parking district downtown. And Jerry will be in to talk to the group tomorrow about what that manpower would look like in order to address that. In light of that, and in light of the board's at least expression to us that that was something that they were leaning towards, depending upon what the numbers look like, we started figuring out, well, when do we really need that DPW push? And that's going to be the lousy weather, snow, rain, stuff like that.
The opposite of when people are cutting grass.
Exactly. So there is our full-time litter grass cutting crew, then turns into our
Snow.
winter snow crew.
Smart, right.
And so we were
Does
trying to
seasonal stay seasonal though, or is that,
Right, so seasonal would come off,
and then new seasonal will come on, or?
yeah,
Well,
well, if
Not
we could,
necessarily,
not,
but at least you have that extra full-time body that you're putting on, you know, in the way the staff would look, either in a truck or on the sidewalk crew in downtown. So that's where that extra staff and extra help would come.
because one of the things we struggled with is that, you know, we need an army in the winter, we don't necessarily need an army in the summer. But if we are talking about some key additions to staff, let's start small.
I'm surprised on the issue, but 3 people is enough to just rotate through constant cutting, just.
And it's gotta be more than that, it has to be more than just grass cutting, it also is going to be some care to the downtown, some significant care to the downtown.
Right, well, they
Right.
wouldn't, yes, it would kind of be
And
a
watering
team effort.
planters
Well,
Well, you've got the rest of your
that-
staff is-
Right,
is
so
the
we
downtown.
have a staff member that would not only be watering the all the planters and things like that, but he would also kind of pick up the slack with taking care of downtown. And this mowing crew would sort of be a help to him. So when they got done with their responsibilities, they could come through, and they would be responsible for the islands and all of that as well. And basically, the way we looked at it, we could do it on a 4-day schedule, and then that 5th day, that Friday, they would merge kind of back into the parks crew and help, whether it's our downtown guy needs help down here, or we have a project going on somewhere else that they can jump in for the day. We've based this on a 4-day cycle with mowing and islands. The problem with and how that looks compared to contracting with the mower that we have now, the contract we have now, they basically pigeonhole us into a day and a half because of all their other contracts that they have. So if it rains on a Monday, well, now they've got a half a day on Thursday, they can't get everything done, and now we carry over to the following week and stuff starts getting backed up, and that's what we ran into this year.
I have no problem with the idea of it, but I don't think I've seen an actual kind of dollars and cents comparison against contractual labor versus staff labor,
So what we're looking.
staff solution.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I mean, we're
so
seeing it
that's
sort
what
of
I have right here.
piecemeal in a, got it in the Parks and Recreation budget, we got it in the DPW budget, we got it in like
Like, maybe you can forward her your, I mean, I have it right here, I
Yeah,
realize he didn't provide it to you,
Yeah,
but
can
he
I just see that, can you just
provided
quickly
it
pass
to me.
this, just to peek at it? Sorry.
I mean, the contract is $60,000, so the comparison is what he's got there versus.
And I-
60,000 not accurate, because they're not.
Well,
doing-
60,000 is not a,
It's not accurate, it's this
Not
year,
a
so going forward,
representation.
we don't.
And even last year, it was the same ballpark price, different company, I got rid of them because we had the same issues.
But I'm talking about the
It should
fully
cost us
loaded
100,000.
costs, I'm sure he doesn't have
Yeah.
benefits and all that other stuff.
Well, there's one employee
The
with
problem
benefits,
is, we're not
you
just
can
talking
have
about
30.
swapping the grass cutting though, it's like
Right,
all
it's a
of the
bigger,
things
it's a
that
bigger
are-
concept,
Yeah.
Right.
and I think it's a worthy idea.
And the equipment content, equipment cost, that's, you gotta take that burden in the first year. But then after that, you're paying for the one staff member and 2 seasonal. on a
No,
yearly
I
basis. So-
understand
I
that.
just share that around later.
yeah.
Yeah, I can
But
distribute
I
that
think,
to you.
I can
but I
forward
think
it to
it's
the
at
board.
least, if we are gonna say, let's just say for argument's sake, commit to 3 additional hires, maybe 4, across both departments. I just think we need to just sort of be aware of what the implications are, because while things are okay now, sometimes, what goes, if it was
Yeah.
a repeat,
Sure, but we're only hiring one guy that we're committed to, so anything else is seasonal, we're not committed to that.
so even if just that whole plan was just kind of outlined in a way that you could just, I'm not against it, but I just feel it's very kind of amorphous.
So the one guy we're committed to is on Ike's staff?
He is,
For
I mean,
floats?
if we decided not to do this, he could be on Jerry's staff somewhere, I mean, we're hiring, the position would be a laborer.
During the winter would be
So
doing.
what happens
he
in the
would be
winter
under-
is with Jerry,
He
so what
would be
happens
under
is
Jerry,
that
yeah.
Ike and Jerry
Yeah.
work together for the distribution, and most of Ike's crew works under Jerry's direction for plowing or snow.
Anytime there's any
sidewalk.
sort of
Oh,
snow
already,
removal.
oh, okay, so
They
this
re-
isn't,
they
this isn't a
report
new,
to
yeah,
Jerry.
yeah, okay, got it.
Or, anything along those lines. So, it wouldn't be anything different in that matter. It would be under the same premise.
Yeah.
So if we look at, I just wanna go down to the bottom line here. Cause there's a lot of ups, a lot of down, but we're looking at overall 25% increase, no, where is the summary? Oh God, is there a summary?
Well, she's looking for that, how was the camps this year, the enrollment, is it up?
Yes, well, everything except for TOTS. Our TOTS camp, was down a little, not a significant decrease, but it was lower than last year.
Do we know if,
Everything.
school enrollment for that grade is down as well?
I don't know offhand. I could
You
find
should
that
ask
out,
just
but-
John for his numbers, projection numbers.
16,
Because if
2017.
that population is decreasing, then your TOPS camp is gonna.
Right,
I thought that the revenue projections were overly conservative perhaps for what the camps were gonna take in next year. Based on
there's so
their
much there.
2-year performance.
You know, my husband, I'm sorry, my husband literally just asked me whether or not Newcastle police were, and I didn't understand the question. Let me call this.
Yeah, thank you.
We have tended to budget conservatively. I even bumped from what Ike told me he thought he could do.
Yeah.
He told me it was 465 or
Yeah.
something, I think I put 485. That has been cyclical, we've been on a trend, an upward trend over the
Yeah.
last few years. We had one year that we kinda got burned by, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, where we actually, we came in about 350, and I can't remember, the budget was like 450 or 475 that year. And not only that, we also, and this was not under Ike, we hired to staff 475. So not only did we not reach our revenue projections, we fell, we completely blew through our personnel on that too, so.
and that's one of the things that we've, when Bill was here last year, and this year we worked hard to avoid. We base our hiring as the numbers roll in.
Yeah.
We interview 100 counselors, but, we only hire them as the numbers go up and as we need them. So this way we're not overstaffing and then all of a sudden in panic mode when we don't reach our numbers,
Yeah.
but, yeah, no, and the, On the Go camp did really well for us this year. And we, did some add-ons this year that brought in additional revenue, after, everything, a lot of the stuff we do now is contractual, like an 80-20 split that we bring in independent contractors. But those add-ons, I think initially brought in, like $45,000 to $50,000 for the camp. You know, we pay out 80% of it, but
Right.
just to get that added revenue that comes in and the added programming, the parents really liked this year. It was interesting scheduling. It was, you know, Brittany had a good time trying to figure that out when we started putting all the schedules together. But she did a great job, and I think we'll continue with it next year, working with Seven Bridges and Willowbrook, and you know, being.
And I think one area you wanted to try to develop and expand was the teens, right?
Correct. Yeah, the teen travel camp that we really wanted to push this past summer kind of fell through the cracks when Bill left, because he was spearheading all of that, and so it kind of just, it fell through the cracks. We're trying to get Brittany acclimated and get camp going. So I would like to give it another shot next year. We dropped some of the budget down a little bit. I don't want to call it a skeleton camp, but we're going to look to decrease the amount of trips just to get the ball rolling, and kind of, you know, we'll base the trips. Same thing we do with hiring staff. So if we get enough kids to run the trip, we'll run the trip. We're not going to look at it as a 5-week where you sign up for the whole week. We'll do it by trip, and then this way with busing and staff, and we can merge staff over from on the go to try to build that segment instead of, you know, allocating all this money for it again this year. So we'll kind of take more of a ground up approach this year. And one of the things I know, working with Ivy and after the Girl Scouts gave their presentation, trying to get that tween zone going over at the community center, that'll help give us a captive audience a little bit with promoting some of that travel camp, and I think they'll work hand in hand to promote each other as well. So some of the things we're hoping for next year for the summer.
You able to tweak the Friday schedule at all?
That's why we're gonna look to start in
January.
January.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to interrupt any of the fall scheduling, it's already started.
Absolutely not. Just curious.
So, yeah, so we'll certainly get a little pushback, but.
No, the chat pack is open Friday afternoons, maybe something fabulous we could bus people over to.
Move it,
With our new bus.
move it.
Speaking of which,
For the seniors maybe.
did we wanna, I didn't notice any increase in chat pack. I mean, we've been putting on some concerts, we talked about potentially increasing that so we could utilize the space more for seniors. I know we have a tight budget, but I didn't see any increase at all, I know we talked about it.
I don't know if there's an increase in the Wallace line. We did increase the seniors budget a little bit to accommodate some of those programs up at Wallace.
We got increased, we got the bigger grant, and we have increased scheduling as a result of it, so.
Well, yeah, but I know like we've been kind of funding like that author series, and we may wanna waive fees for certain other people who might wanna put on certain programming. I can
Well,
talk
I don't
about
know
that in
if that would
executive
be-
session, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
Are you looking, what are you looking for? You're looking for more expenses in chat pack or
Yeah, I
revenues?
mean, well, both.
Cause the expenses do go up next year, right?
yeah.
No, that's
Oh,
just-
actually, no, we don't.
I actually
We don't
reduced them
reduce it,
based on the
down.
actual, well,
It came
that, I
down.
reduced them based on what we've actually
Spend.
been spending,
As
so.
far as maintenance and things like that, but this is
Right,
like
maintenance,
the
this is
physical
more like-
building.
Well, these were supposed to be
Right.
the operating costs
Right.
to operate
Correct.
the
So
building, so.
electric, you know,
Right,
things like
right, those I don't anticipate, but
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted because our generator stopped working, my kids are home in the dark by themselves. No, it was talking about like programming.
I mean,
We
don't have
never
an
did a
an
line
expense
for
on
programming.
Unless it
programming.
goes up in the arts and culture committee budget.
Maybe that's the more.
I mean, if we're gonna do, I have no problem doing programming, but I mean, I kind of feel I haven't seen a P&L, I don't know what the revenues for the chat pack are, we know what the expenses are. I have no problem expanding the programming, but shouldn't we sort of be focused on things like ADA compliance and kind of getting the building?
Yeah, well, we're hoping that we're gonna get services to pay for that, the ADA compliance. in fact, I need to write a letter to you guys, cause there are certain things we haven't been able to book because we're not ADA compliant. But no, it was more, not even so much that we're spending money, but if we waive fees, it's something, I don't know how you account for that, I guess it's not,
But are
it's
we-
decreasing revenue, it's not really
Right, I
increasing
mean,
an
I left
expense.
the revenue just very, very neutral. There hasn't been a ton of revenue that's come through there.
I mean, are
You
we
know, we're-
underutilized?
Chat pack?
Yeah, we're
Yes, definitely.
I mean,
Some of
we
that's just the
budgeted 25,000
construction.
the last couple of years, in 2017, we hit 20,000. This year to date, we're at 11,463.
For where, what line item you?
We're under the revenue tab towards the front of the
Right.
budget,
So,
it's,
sorry,
2001
Zero.
dot
But we
0013.
reduced fees because we felt we were overcharging, didn't we, at one point?
They reassessed the entire
Yeah,
fee schedule
yeah, that
back
was
a
totally
year or
fine.
two ago.
Well, no, so but your project, I actually circled this, cause your projection is
25.
25, which seemed like maybe it was high based on the actual for this year.
Based on this year, yeah, I mean, we've got, we've got some benchmarks in our agreement with the manager there, and he's supposed to exceed that number, and
That's what he's.
so.
But not if we're talking about waiving more fees, right?
We've got some big concerts coming from the fall, I don't know if you have much money they're gonna make off it, but
Well-
they do have some.
Well, that's,
Right,
we're
you're
not
not
paying,
paying for
we're
that.
not making it, that's
We're
the
not
thing.
paying for that. We just make the rental fee.
He's paying us rent $500.
We just make,
I mean,
this
there's-
is really if we wanted, like, we voted to kind of approve that book series with scattered books to have authors come in and kind of promote. It's more things like that.
But do we know which things draw, because I feel that, scattered books, I mean, I'm all for like something simple like that, but.
we actually do know the things that draw, but again, if we don't have the ADA compliance, so that we can make the place accessible,
Right, but that's a foundation,
We're like-
that needs to come first.
yes. But the problem is that we need to establish the boundaries of the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, and then we need to see where that leaves us, and then we need to address the accessibility issues that those boundaries then leave us with. So we've got this berm in front of the center parking lot, we've got barriers to handicap parking since we're not gonna have sufficient area on the premises itself to provide enough handicap parking, we need to get enough access that the whole front of that building needs to be reworked so that it's barrier free.
So how are we planning on subsidizing that?
We're hoping to get some assistance.
In the form of a grant,
No,
form
I
of
think
donation?
I think from the Summit Greenfield.
Oh,
To assist us with that, since part of their design has left us in this pickle.
Lurch.
Yes.
Yes. Better word than pickle, thank you.
Is that gonna happen?
Yeah, is this an executive session
Yeah.
Probably.
issue?
Okay, so, hold that thought.
so, but anyways, I just wanna make sure that however we're constructing this budget, even if it means that the parts that the town can pick up to make it ADA compliant, because we should definitely, I don't know how much money's left, how much money's not left, whatever, but I just definitely feel like we have to tackle that challenge sort of head on.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
There's no point in doing the other things, the HVAC and the.
All the other
Other
stuff,
stuff,
if you're not
if you're not-
ADA compliant, it's
Yeah.
like kind of like, it's like,
And that's it's certainly secondary.
What?
The HVAC, doing anything like that would be secondary, making sure it's ADA compliant.
Well, yeah, I
It's
mean,
gotta be hand in hand,
it's ADA accessible, it's not it's not ideal, I mean, I think you need to do something
think
with
it
it, if you can't swelter people
but
once
if we're,
they're in there.
turning business away to the tune of, $40,000-$50,000 a year because of this one thing. I mean, as I
It's more than
said,
just the one thing though.
Friends of Music alone brings in like
Well, it's
400
also the
people.
construction, but
Yeah, but it's only a one night rental
And
that we
the
would
lighting
receive.
and-
No,
the
Friends of
sound
Music is a
and-
whole concert series.
I understand, but so you're talking, even if it's 10 concerts over the course of a year? we would only get
$500
$500 a night
well,
for
maybe
the rental.
more,
Maybe a
depending
little
on-
more, but that's,
But wouldn't we, once we were ADA compliant, wouldn't we take our fees up because it would be one of the buildings that was ADA compliant? That could host it?
possibly, but yeah, I mean, the challenge has been that, yeah, I mean, we'd have to test the market at that point, but we just have to get to that point.
Right, we'd have to see what these are. I mean, look, potentially, there's a lot of uses for that building. I would love at some point, frankly, to be able to put a generator in there and use it as a warming center for people when everyone's power goes out and show movies there to kinda entertain people while they're, have no power. If that happens again, where people are out of power for a week, it would be nice to have a place for them to go with comfortable seats and nice bathrooms and where they could sort of be entertained for a little while. I think that would be
It's a great
a
amendment, we
great
just have to.
use of it, the building for the town purposes. But that's not really, that's on the budget for a while.
So that
Unless we
funding's
can
going to the
find a
ADA.
grant or something for that.
Okay, let's go back to Ike.
Like, how much do, and I'm sorry, how much do we expect the new playground and basketball court to cost or be a burden on your folks in terms of just maintaining it and staffing it? When I say staffing it, obviously not having someone sitting there, but
Right.
a basketball court, you know, someone's gotta, I assume, shovel that off in the winter or protect it in the winter, or does it just stay that way? The new equipment, is there anything that needs to be done to maintain it on the playground, or does it just stay there and?
Yeah, it won't be a huge burden, additional burden, other than outside of what any other playground would be. I mean, if we can go with the pour in place or the rubber tile surfacing for the playground, it would even be less of a maintenance issue because we wouldn't have to worry about raking and replacing wood chips all the time and weeds and all that sort of stuff around the playground. The basketball court is very limited maintenance as long as, you know, the biggest thing is not, damage to the court is gonna be the thing that you would run into at some point, but outside of that, nothing over the top additional as far as the staff is concerned. You know, it'd be a great programming opportunity for us,
Right.
Pickleball too,
and pickleball,
What'd you say?
pickleball,
and pickleball.
you never heard of
It's
pickleball?
it's the big
Newest
fad
fad.
right now. Everybody's,
It's so funny.
I've heard of it, alright.
It's
Yes.
basically like a tennis with a paddle, small court,
yeah,
use a net. Bedford courts, they use it for pickleball, it's huge.
yeah, they carve out one night a week, I think it's one night a week, for basically a pickleball program. They pay a yearly fee, membership fee, and you go play pickleball on Thursday nights at Bedford Park. So-
Swim clubs have courts also that people use all the time.
Oh, do they? So, and
think
it's,
Javelin
it's
and tennis has
and the good thing about like, one of the benefits of pickleball is it's a low startup cost. I mean, this one is
So
nothing.
overall, I'm seeing a budget in your budget going up like about $100,000 over this year. And for as far as I can tell, just eyeballing all of the line items, it looks like a lot of it is contractual or seasonal help.
So, right, so
And
this
so
is,
is this all sort of tied to this idea of more in-house, more management?
Well, I mean,
More in-house.
the additional labor
Or it's
is
overtime too? and
is
other-
47,000, the additional seasonal is, what do we say, 21,000?
approximately.
So you have that, you have the contractual increases, so anybody in the CAC is getting 1.8% increase.
What again are we paying at our peak time for grass and those services that we're now gonna get rid of? So a couple years back, you said it was how much?
60.
It's been in the 50s, 60s,
Right.
But just for
around
whatever
that.
reason this year, that's not cutting it anymore.
Well, no.
It
no
hasn't
pun
been.
intended.
I did not mean, that wasn't intentional, I'm sure Nick would appreciate that, but.
So, yeah, last year, so I've only been here for 2 mowing seasons, and I've run into the same problem both years, where, you know, last year we were babysitting all the time with the contractor that we had.
I don't wanna interrupt you, but the bottom line, I'm sorry,
So-
the question ultimately was, it's been that for years and years, roughly that same price point.
Well, it was two bids, one
I
was a
think so.
$60,000 bid, one was a $130,000 bid.
You are correct. Past history shows that it's been in that $50,000 to $60,000 range.
Okay, and they've all been terrible, which is
hasn't
why
been
they
great,
haven't
ever.
been renewed.
Yeah.
So we keep searching the next year, we don't renew them again, we go out to bid. They, do the same lousy job, we do it again, we take the lowest responsible bidder. end up with the same problem again.
And
But
last
as,
year,
but as part of this budget cycle, with this idea of the downtown district, the summer cutting grass helping with the sidewalks in the wintertime, sort of this flex labor pool, that's what you wanna call it. Could you just kind of, just maybe take Ike's and Jerry's kind of visions for how this would work and overlay them and sort of just put like what we've been paying, even if it's unrealistically low, for these services and what we expect them to be, and some of them could go up, not just because of improved quality and control, sort of things like cutting grass, but it could be expanded services, for example, like the sidewalk district. I just kind of feel like, you know, I'd like to, if we're gonna be expanding town staff by 10-15%, I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but the equivalent of 10 or 15% man hours, I don't know what the actual hours are, even if they're not full-time help. I just like to sort of have it kind of like, that's a strategic decision that sort of piecemeal, some of it's buried in Ike's budget, some of it's buried in Jerry's budget, some of it's buried here.
Well,
It just makes the whole
Okay,
concept.
I mean, we can do that, there's only one person right now that's additional for any of it, there's only one full-time person.
Full-time, but you are bringing in,
Two seasonal,
Two seasonal,
two
so
part-time
one
seasonal
full-time,
employees.
two
but
part-time.
you're also bringing the equivalent in for shoveling sidewalks, right?
We're not.
That's it.
No.
So
This is
just
it.
explain, just even if we could just explain how this is
Okay.
gonna work. I'm not against it, I mean, it may be absolutely the best way to run it.
I mean, really, this was Ike's proposal, it's really was about the grass cutting, and then Joe and I thought, well, great, what's the grass cutting guy gonna do?
In the
We hired
wintertime.
him, he's here, he has to
Right.
do something, we said, we can assign him to Jerry and have him do that kind of stuff, so Jerry will come in tomorrow and tell you, when we talked about kind of the proposal, what it would take to clear all these new sidewalks, and it's cost prohibitive. That's what he's going to tell you.
It's also,
So-
Oh no.
it's also weeding, there's tons of weeds that have to get, taken care of, it's good to be able to.
Right, I mean, Ike has other staff, he has somebody else that's gonna be dedicated to the downtown for the upkeep and the weeding and that type of thing in the summer, and
yeah, both Chappaqua and Millwood, that'll be his, the group all together is sole responsibilities, he'll be hitting both areas and watering, taking care of that, and he'll be weeding and garbage and litter, and, I mean, that's gonna be his role, basically April to October, with dealing with that sort of stuff.
Right.
And after talking with Rob and Joe, that was the point, if we can get this mowing crew and bring it in-house, so I feel like I have more control over the situation and a little bit more with the quality control than having to try to chase a contractor around. And then it would be twofold, once November, December, January, February come into play, where this person can now, another body to help take snow.
I wouldn't say Jerry had any, I mean, he wasn't involved in the discussion.
He was
We just
not.
thought, wow.
Oh no, that's fine, but I just wanna make sure from, like, you guys are the managers, so.
Right, so I think the point is just that if we're talking, whether we're talking about adding one person or one person full-time, two people seasonally, or multiple people if we continue to expand the number of things that we take in-house, I think the idea is just to go in sort of eyes wide open about what's the full cost of taking these things on as opposed to the contractual cost. So it's not just a straight salary, it's also thinking about the sort of strategy behind,
Sure, but that's why I
You gotta
mentioned,
pay their health benefits,
I go back to
you gotta pay their
the
pension,
one
and you
full-
gotta
right,
think
right.
about, these long-term sort
So
of
the
effects.
full-time people, we have to pay the pension, the health benefits and all that, the seasonal we do not. So there's really not much more cost associated with that other than FICA and Medicare share, so 7 point whatever percent it is. So that's all associated with that, but yeah, the full-time would.
And I won't be here tomorrow, so if Jerry's portion of his email sort of explaining his idea of the downtown and whether it's cost prohibitive or whatever, could you just email that back up to me in the memo form, not just in this document?
Can I just ask one question before you go? What, this line here, it's
What page?
7310,
7310?
special projects.
61.
61. 6 special projects for $85,000, it's been carried year over year, what is that?
Chappaqua Central School District.
That's for the
Facilities
leased
agreement.
facilities,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
which is a whole separate conversation
So-
of
Yes, it is.
being raked over the
Cool.
proverbial coals.
Well, which we have been for like 20-something years, but whatever, doesn't make it right, I'm just saying.
Well, maybe we can renegotiate that a bit this year.
Well, yeah, but only that they think they should deserve more money.
Right, that's.
Which they dangled in front of us to get their bond
There's two sides to
passed.
that, and we've met at 85,000. They think it should be much more, we think it should be nothing or much less, and somehow that's where we are.
It's an ongoing conversation.
So,
But
Yeah.
I know
Ike's
with
really happy about
Whole
it.
Foods today, they're anxious to sponsor some events.
Beautiful.
The Fall Festival, I don't think is gonna work for them because the Chicos, but we can think of something else.
I can think of something.
I mean, yeah,
I mentioned Shop Pack too.
so, good to know. And speaking of Fall Festival, October 27th,
You there, B-Square?
mark it on your calendars.
You having a same gala lineup?
The big band and everything?
Yeah, we'll have the band there for the afternoon.
Got pony rides?
Oh, so that's
We'll have
instead
it.
of October
Pied
13th?
Piper Pump.
Now it's
Correct, yeah, 'cause we
27th.
got-
Which by the way,
We got
the-
bumped.
the school district
Oh, I
confirmed-
know. Do you know how many PTA moms called me that afternoon?
We resolved it right away, we told them we were switching the date.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
But I have to tell you that we have emails from the school district confirming that the
Yeah.
date is fine and that we're okay to go.
I got
In
this
writing.
long,
From the
I
school
got this
district,
long
but
email
not from the
somebody,
PTA.
And then we switched the date.
So,
Oh,
yes, it will
drama.
be, I hope we get the same beautiful weather that we had last year. Yeah, we have the band in line. Brittany's working with another dance group to kind of do a little, give the band a break, a little halftime shows for the youth groups and
We could
we'll have
also-
the kids zone again and food trucks and sponsors and tents and all that sort of stuff, so, we just need the weather to hook us up.
Maybe we should acknowledge the Manheimer people at some time.
Maybe it's not gonna
And
be
we'd wait over that.
No,
That's
the
the-
fact that they made this donation, so
Maybe they should
acknowledge them
reconsider
at the
their facilities
meeting, give them a
agreement.
little like piece of paper and say, just as an idea to thank.
We could also have the kids band, the band that performed.
And also just
They were
make sure.
great. They were so
Can I
good.
just touch
They were
base
good.
with
They were.
Millwood
They would
Fire
do it in 2
Company?
seconds.
Could you do
Plus you
it,
bring out, it's like a kid's play, you bring out all the parents and
I-
grandparents to watch.
Yes, ma'am.
Built-in audience.
could you do me a favor, could you touch base with Millwood Fire Company, make sure that they're
Are we on
fully
time?
aware of this? So do you have
Yes.
George Rodriguez's number?
How are we on time?
Like, you could even,
When I have him from last year,
Yes.
I should have an email chain
Yeah, but
somewhere
this
from
is-
last year's event, right?
Yeah, so make sure you have that, and also,
Yeah, I wanna hear about
one
Rob.
other
well, we
thing.
gotta do, not one,
Oh, the Newcastle Historical
I
Society.
know my supervisor well. we
Yes,
gotta do
right,
one.
Is
Ms.
this
Williams,
not
No,
Cassie's?
Yeah, it is. Board of
Cassie.
The
Control.
last one.
Cassie Ward.
Cassie,
Okay, so Gray is the town historian.
right,
Go with your house.
Cassie Ward, and Brittany should know this, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that Cassie was at it last year, I think
No, but
Gray
she
only
got,
did it.
no, she's the one that wanted the table with the sort of historical things, it might be too short notice,
Yeah, but Gray was the one who showed up.
no, I understand, but I think
would
she
you-
wanted to know,
Would
so.
you be able to send me Cassie's contact information?
If this isn't budget, I mean, even though I was the late one stuck on the train.
What happened?
I was-
No, it's fine, it's not budget, but it's, I just wanna make sure those two things get done.
Forward, forward. I don't mean to be rude, I just, otherwise we get,
No, we only have Rob's budget left.
no, we have two. We have-
No,
I
we
just
already
sent you
did them both,
Cassie's
Rob.
information.
Oh, thank you.
So I,
Another thing we could do is,
Yeah.
we could have like
Yeah.
demonstrations, like
Hold on.
maybe a local karate school or a local dance school.
Well,
kids
the
go
local
on the
dance
street.
school is what Brittany's working
Okay,
on. The one we had last year
Was from
can't make it.
Pleasantville.
They can't make it this year, so she found another one, I can't remember the name.
Maybe we should ask John Finelli's
But-
drama piece to go do something.
Drama bees, you get a karate school up there to do a demonstration, you know,
I
we can have that stage rotating all day long.
Over an hour to
Right.
get here from the other side of town.
And the stage is locked in, be delivered Friday night.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very cool.
thank you, Ike.
Yeah, any other questions?
Thank you.
No? Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else we?
What do you think about changing the name Fall Beer Festival? Probably should have more people, yeah.
Well, we put beer tent.
Festival and beer.
I think we put beer
With
tent on the
beer.
inside, so.
With beer.
So you're gonna go see Greg and pick those up tomorrow.
Joe, super quick, did Sabrina mention how the change in fees, from last year, we changed the fees to do the searches? Did she mention
No.
the sort of response at all from the community?
Wait a
I don't
second.
have anything else.
No, I think you're good.
Okay. Alright,
She's still here?
thank you very much.
She might be.
That was a big issue that we discussed last year.
Yeah, it
Wasn't that
was
last year or was
not
it
an-
mid-year that we changed it?
Yeah,
I don't
it was
remember.
not an issue, so what we did was we raised the fees
Right,
for title searches and we put additional staff on it and we reduced the amount of time that the
and what was the increase in dollars?
Good night, thank you, I.
Do you know what line item that was?
Let's do,
And we can find it out later,
it's
but
probably in the revenue
But you
line.
know what, I think she would have to pull that out in the report for us, because
yeah, I'm
it's
curious.
not actually it's not
It's
actually
not being
credited to that
charged.
line, cause I think when it comes over to us, it just
Doesn't-
comes over on a report.
Could you find out what that is, how many
Yeah.
title searches, it may be obviously tied to how many
Yes.
houses sold and what it rented, what it generated?
Yeah, I think when it comes to my department, I get a generic building permit fees.
Right.
So we do separate some of that out, plumbing and certain ones. I think her software can track that. When
Okay.
it comes to me, I don't see it that way,
Yeah,
so
that'd be
I think
interesting.
we can do that.
Okay, we can do it.
Listen, I hate to do this, but my kids are home in the dark right now, so I'm good with the supervisor.
We're not gonna send this to
No,
CPS,
this
very
is not-
nice, don't worry.
This is for the comptrollers, by the way, just for the rest.
I know, is that,
We'll see you
Fine, don't
tomorrow.
worry.
I'm so sorry.
You can watch it on
I'll be
tape.
there in the morning.
Yeah, you can watch it, you can watch it
In my
live.
no power.
8:00,
You can use your,
Yes.
use your
Alright,
mobile device.
thank you.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Don't feel
Okay,
bad.
thank you.
You should take joy in your kids being home in the dark though, personally. Sort of funny.
It was dark and stormy night, the
Okay.
captain said.
Alright, what page are you on? You are on,
Rob, you wanna talk about your budget?
No, I'm good.
Rob, what
If
page?
anybody has any questions,
Oh, I told you, I have a lot of questions. I marked it all up,
The
I'm ready to
supervisor
go.
stands alone. Look at the chart.
No doubt, no doubt.
For
Town
the,
supervisor is the chief elected officer for the
for my budget, and I do wanna talk about, since we're here, just a couple of overall budget things, but I'll talk specifically to my budget, really almost nothing changed, the contractual salaries and that type of thing. I have requested, money to have, Diana, my senior bookkeeper, attend the GFOA conference in, March or April of next year with me. I have gone the last 2 years and it's very informative and she would benefit from that. She's a real, I think, most of you probably know, stickler for the rules if you ask anybody around here. And there is a lot of information there, so I've included an additional $450 for her to attend that conference. So that's all I've done with that. With that, I just wanna talk about a couple of things that don't really fall under departments that are part of the overall budget. So, in Jill's message, we talked about staying under the tax cap and we've done that again. One of the reasons we were able to do that is we've allocated a significant amount of fund balance this year. So I think for the last 2 years, since we started to get serious about forming numbers for the bond, that's what we've talked about. So we've accumulated fund balance over the last several years with the intention that we would start drawing it down to help pay for the debt service. So the fund balance that I've allocated this year is the difference between the debt service this year and last year. So I kind of wanted to use that as an apples to apples comparison. So when we say we're raising the tax levy $484,000, I'm trying to keep the debt separate from that and so we actually have a comparison year over year what we're paying. So,
Do you have it up on like the magic screen?
yeah, I can do that. It's not part of that, but I do have it. Okay, so,
Oh, Hala, everything's up on OpenGov now.
No, I knew that.
so, just going through, and this is something that I've been updating for the
Okay,
last
yeah,
couple of
okay, good.
years. The fund balance, so the general is that kinda purple, I don't know, magenta, whatever you would call it, the tall one. That one right there. So if you look and see when we go back to 2008, where that number is and how that dropped off over the years, and where it was at the end of 2017, you see we've added quite a bit of money there, and the intention has always been that we help to pay for the debt associated with this project. So I've got another
Yeah, that's the
slide
one.
that just shows the projected debt service So you see what it was in 17 and 18, and then what it goes to for 2019 based on the new borrowing.
Okay, but does this, there's part of this is a conversation not for here, but there's issues potentially with refuse collection, is that calculated into your analysis?
Yeah, it is, and we will get into that.
Can you just go back one slide, or can you each distribute this report, because I think this is the
Absolutely.
one that originally, when I was talking to you about how it's gonna be paid, and I wanted.
Right,
So it's that same spreadsheet updated again.
Right, so what this is the actual debt service over the next several years. And, you know, I want to point out where it was in 17, dropped in 18, then we get up to 19, and a couple issues in 19, and I've mentioned it a few times, because we borrowed the money early in 2018, and because we didn't make a debt payment in 2018, our 2019 interest portion is significantly higher than it will be going forward, because we're paying all of 18's, we're paying 11 months of 18's interest in 19. So that's calculated in. Also part of that is a good amount of debt drops off as well.
So do we have a chart that shows as we allocate the fund balances towards the debt service, what the remaining fund balance
Yep,
is?
we do. Okay. That is
What do you define as a healthy fund balance?
15%. And where did that go?
So
I had that, okay.
15%.
So as a percentage, this is going forward. So as a percentage, that red line is 15%. So you see everything is staying above that 15% with the, actually, I left that at 20 because I don't want to go below 20. The auditors say 15, but I don't like to go below.
Other than highway, why is that?
Other than highway, and let him
So-
explain about highway, cause that's
Okay.
a little bit of a unique situation.
Yeah, so highway is unique. So you look at every other fund and they're all self-contained. It's fund accounting. So activities in the water fund, I can only pay for water with it, water activities. So if I have $8 million in fund balance, I can pay for a capital project out of water, but I can't buy a police car with that money. General and highway are different because they both apply to the entire town. General and highway tax levy, every single taxpayer in town pays that. So we can money can kind of go back and forth between those funds. So the fact that that fund balance is low isn't concerning because it can be offset with general funds.
The general fund is also relatively speaking low. I mean, it's
Well-
well above you, 15 you.
It's
Between
relatively,
average and
Although the question-
it's relatively speaking, but if you look at the amount, it's actually $5.1 million.
Well, I mean, I think the
so
thing, I
it's-
Highway's
think what
always
it
a
shows
fraction
us
of
that,
that.
I think what he's trying to show us in some way is if we have any surpluses, which I don't know if we will this year,
I believe it.
but if we have surpluses, we may wanna allocate that money to shore it up.
Well, what I'm trying to show is just that this projection.
Because if you're saying that highway and general are interchangeable, because it's a whole town, whole town
Yeah.
expense, then, you know, what's hard to sort of see is if you add the two of them together, where do we actually end up?
So on that other slide.
Right, so I mean, if we basically are looking at those two as being fungible as a collective unit, you know, where do the two of them
So
end up?
5.1 in just
That's
under
what-
$1 million, right?
7.55 and 40.
Yeah, I mean,
I
when you
really-
talk at whole numbers, you're talking about $5.5 million there.
Between the two funds.
Between the two at the end of 2023. And this does not, this.
So 5.5 million of 40 million is.
No, but it's not the full 40 million, it's only
It's the general and highway
portion of the
portion, which is,
budget.
But don't you like to have?
which is 27.7 million.
I mean, it would just be the average
So
of the
this
two.
is, so
on the
what
previous slide,
I
the
have been
average
saying
of 20
for,
on the five.
what I repeat every time that I give this, worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, we're using the debt service,
And we're not adding a penny.
the fund balance
Right.
to pay off the debt service.
Which would
So-
keep us above the
so,
20%.
Let me show you another chart. So I gave you all these numbers 2 years ago when we started doing this, okay? Here's how I did. Okay, when you look at this one, this is general fund. What I told you back then, where our fund balance would be, is this white line right there.
Right.
Where I'm now telling you will be is where the pink line is.
Oh. See, that's why I love working with you so much.
Okay, the highway fund, pretty close, but it does dip. And so what I'll say about the highway fund, in every other fund that we have significant revenue sources. So how do we get a fund balance? How do we add to fund balance in the general fund? Well, we do when sales tax, mortgage tax, building permits, camp revenue, when any of those exceed what we expected, that goes into fund balance.
Well, we had an artificial bump for building permits, not artificial.
Not artificial.
I mean, that's not the right term, you're right, but with a big development.
It is, but we increase the budget, so we're not talking, we don't add to fund balance when it increases over last year, only when it increases over the budget, over what we were expecting. So, and we have still done that. So there's revenue sources there. When you talk about water, there's revenue sources there. We sell water. So when we sell more water than we expected, goes into fund balance. Highway, there's really no revenue that comes in. There's tax revenue from the tax levy, and there's state and county money for chips, for road paving, for snow removal. That's it.
Where does ticket collection go to, for like speeding on the local road or something?
General fund.
General fund.
Yeah. So the way that we accumulated fund balance in the highway fund was not because of overages and revenues, but in
Not spending.
reduction in spending. And how that has happened over the last maybe 3 to 5 years prior to the last year was the snow removal expenses weren't as much as we thought, and we had milder winters. Over the last couple of years, the winters have ramped up. We're spending a ton more money on overtime and salt, which there's nothing we can do, but that is, so we're no longer adding to the fund balance there. We're either treading water or we're drawing from it. And you'll see again tomorrow, Jerry's gonna talk about, and he's requested, and we agree with him, that we need to budget more for that next year.
Overtime for snow removal and also salt.
So that's why highway gets that way. So, and I'll just show you the other chart with the other two funds. Again, with water, this blue line right here is what I told you it would be last November. Where I'm now telling you it will be is this line on top. And the same thing with refuse is gonna be slightly better than I thought it was going to be.
Like a conservative
There
plan.
was one question I wanted to ask you. It was in my head twice, and as you talk, I got distracted by the content of your communication.
Well, I have a question.
Write it down next
Why are we maintaining such high fund balances for the water and the refuse? Is there no additional are there no projects we should be taking on there?
There's a lot of projects.
So then why-
We will start to. We haven't done it yet.
The Minko
Because we only
Dam,
have-
the water
There's a whole lot
tower.
of expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a list which I will not be
it's
here
like
for,
something
so I'm
like
gonna give it to these
96%,
guys.
right?
It's high.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which I know is, a lot of this is
So
for
if you,
executive session.
if you go back to the capital budget, back here we have,
Yeah, some of them are
under
listed
the
in that.
water fund, I have a 500,000, 400,000, 3 million, 1.5 to 3 million, 3.5 million, and $600,000. So there are projects.
The water
So these are future bonds that will be issued.
They're future capital projects that
Right.
the board needs to determine, and
Are
based
bonded
on your
or not.
discussion with Jerry Marshall, will we go forward with them? Do we need them? When do we need them? Are those estimates accurate, and how will we pay for it? Will we use fund balance to pay for it outright? Some of them we probably will. Will we borrow for it and use
Yeah.
some fund balance to
Like the
pay for
water
the debt
tower,
service?
the
Possibly
water
that
tower,
too.
can that come out of the water budget?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Can, because it's water.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it would, that's
But
where
Minko
we have
Dam
slated.
can or can't?
No,
No,
Okay,
Nickel
so-
Dam probably.
So the
not.
capital projects is under the capital budget.
yes, in the back.
Water tower is a conversation for tomorrow.
I mean, that's Jerry's project, so I can't really speak to it. I mean,
What's our timetable on that?
So he
Every year we
sent
seem
that
to
back
have-
again.
We seem to have like soon, not yet,
yeah,
but soon.
so he is saying now for that, 2022. So he said, and he'll tell you tomorrow that that's been inspected. And that's what they're telling him that the life is. So I
Oh,
told
I'm
him to
really
be
sad to miss
prepared
this one.
to speak about it, because I said it keeps showing up every year and it
Yeah,
keeps
it's
getting
fine.
bumped every year.
It's
I said, so you better be prepared to
Right,
tell
not
the
my
board
phone.
why you think that that's a valid proposal, and he said he
I'll ask
can.
him.
So, yeah.
Is there another day or another time that you can call to talk to him?
I can do it in the afternoons, late afternoons.
Yeah, he's only 7 to 3.
Yeah,
Why don't you tell me what your schedule looks like, okay, and let's see if we can set up a time, cause
Or
I like
I'll watch the video,
I know, but if you've got questions, it would really
but
be
some of
helpful
these
for the
are
group.
not just Jerry, some of them are
Okay,
too.
no,
That's fine.
Oh, but there was something I wanted to
That's
say,
right.
but I swear to God, I can't remember, sorry.
Well, you know where to reach me.
Are we coming out for the playground of the basketball court? Where we expect there's 1.4.
That is the last that I have seen.
That
That's
is the
correct.
full budget.
That less or inclusive of, or in addition to or inclusive of
The grants.
the grants.
So that's the total, that's what I am being told at this point is the total cost of the project. Last year, when we borrowed, it was estimated to me at $580,000. I anticipated $325,000 worth of grants, and I borrowed the difference between the 580 and the 325. Now I'm understanding that's what the number is. So we need to find additional funding, or we need to
We
pare
need to pare the project down,
back.
that's all. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If we can't do
Paring the
that,
project
Paring the
down,
project.
it's pretty bare bones as it stands now anyways.
no, that is not a bare bones project at all, the way it stands now. It's got every whistle and bell on it.
A basketball court and a playground.
Well, we
It's a
added
lighted-
pickleball, for example.
No, that's actually,
So we're gonna have to.
That's not what
Not sure the
factored in the
pickleball was
cost
the additional 800,000.
I don't think so.
Maybe a couple 100,000, but
Alright, so let's figure
How,
out how to
but
find the
that's
balance.
huge, you went from
That's-
580 to
that-
1.4?
That $1 million, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, includes like paving the parking
Yes,
lot and
lighting,
that, which
It-
by the
it
way,
includes
Each portion of it
yes.
is paving the
That's
parking
not-
lot.
But
I believe
actually-
that included
you have
paving
to
the
do, you have to do that
parking lot
anyway.
and
The
lighting.
LQ
No, it
took some of
didn't.
that, because they use it.
Not the 580 it did,
Not
no.
580.
Could we-
So
we
painting
could
the
break
parking
that
lot-
out? I mean,
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah, I mean,
a long
Bob
time since we've discussed it anyway, we need to break that out.
Bob Cioli has all that. I
And how
believe.
we can, okay.
Yeah, I mean, paving the parking lot was,
That was not part of the
300.
initial.
Paving the part, we haven't paved that part of the parking lot anyways, isn't that part of the project of upgrading?
well, that's the whole thing, so,
I mean,
you know,
it's
there-
like a little bit of Peter and Paul here.
So there's, well, but that's the number that Rob was given, so that's the number he put in there.
Okay.
The reality is that it also includes redoing the front, where ELQ currently is, to show double row of parking and lights and new striping and trees. I mean, I expect ELQ to take and restore that to the condition that we want that to be before they leave, so that's gonna be, you know.
Do we have a breakdown of what the costs are that we add up to that
So
one?
you, so without specifically stating as such now, you believe that some of these dollars will come down, but ELQ should be compensating the town or doing it on their own.
Again, executive session will have.
So what, and I do typically remind, you know, the board members or anybody listening, when we put a capital project in the back, it's what's on the horizon. So I sit down in a meeting and I ask everybody, wish list, what is it you want, what is it you think you need to have, what is it? That's what these things are. So the stuff that's in the future, they will come to the board and ask for them and make their case, and, you know, I'm the money guy. They're telling me that we need to pave this, we need to replace the pipes here, we need a water tower. I'm putting what their estimates that they've given me in the capital budget.
Yeah, I think the last time that we kind of took a hard look and developed that really fabulous
That's Jerry.
spreadsheet.
What's up?
It came down under a conversation, which is there was like, how much can we afford to stay within the 2% tax cap, and then I think there was a prioritization of a need to have and want to have list. And what
What do you mean?
I kind of feel for a lot of these
Oh.
capital projects, they're
Yeah.
put inside these budgets, and maybe, I'm not gonna be at the meeting, but maybe they're covered. But I almost feel like on a more formalized
agree on
basis
this.
for some of these projects,
We all agree
like
on
if
that.
there was, you know, some sort of, whether it was a rubric or some sort of methodology to kind of prioritize them.
Well, we sort of
Because-
prioritize them by putting them in the date that we expect them to actually go
No,
forward.
but some of them are necessary, right? Some of them are not even optional. So like, where's the, like, maybe I'm missing it, but where's the water main underneath the railroad tracks that now may go over the,
It's there.
It's the,
right, so, you know, I just think,
we don't have the thing,
I mean, maybe I don't see it described the way it was originally
Force
described.
main under the MTA tracks, that's how I've had it described to me.
And where is it?
under the water budget, the third one down,
It's the last page.
Drainage
Yeah.
system?
No, force underwater, the last, leave it.
force main MTA tracks.
3.5 million. We're putting it out and,
I mean, you know, I don't,
oh, sorry, sorry.
and I also don't see, for example, like, even here, like a bottom line of all like proposed.
Well, there's not,
No, I
because they're
understand
not,
there's no bottom line, but you know,
well, there isn't because,
I mean, I
so
could take a
when I go back to
calculator and add it
the
up.
basketball court has shown up on every budget before I worked here and every single budget that I worked here. And somebody threw the number $200,000 at me when I started doing budgets, and that was what the basketball court was listed under every single year.
So-
I work with what I have and what I'm given, and you know, it's for the board to work with the department head requesting the project, to work on a budget that's feasible. I'm certainly available to talk about money that's available and financing and all these options, but to say, to put a bottom line and say, we
No,
are
that's
gonna
fine,
do
but-
all that.
But I'm even looking,
I-
for example, at the Chappaqua Infrastructure and Streetscape.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the number of 14,780. Haven't we already bonded for that?
Yeah.
So it's not proposed.
Well, we're
it's not-
proposing to be finished by that year.
No, I
I mean, I
understand,
continue to include it just because it's not completed.
No,
Once it's
no, I-
completed, I won't include it anymore.
So
And
I
then-
guess to a certain extent, is there a way to, like, if that's included, is there something that we've already bonded for that's in essence approved? That's in here beyond that.
Maybe one, I mean, the town hall playground part of it, the art center improvements, which is listed as a bond issuance from 2013. Anything that says future bond issuance, the IT infrastructure has already been borrowed
IT
for.
infrastructure,
So, anything,
And
I
what was
list
the other
the
one?
projected funding source. If I tell you that it was a prior bond issuance, then it has been. If I say future bond issuance to be decided or coming from fund balance, then
well, make sure I
then it's
understand
not.
that. Hold on one second. Let me just look at that one thing to make sure I understand how to read your document. Okay, so if it doesn't say future bond issuance, it's not a proposal. Or,
Well, if I specify that it came from, so, I don't know, go under infrastructure where it says Millwood sidewalk improvements. I list a New York State DOT multimodal grant and a prior bond issuance for 1.17 million. So that has already been funded.
okay. And, alright,
Winkle Dam, if you notice, we originally had it in this
Ooh.
bond, but then we pulled it out.
ouch.
What?
Operating / other funding. Ouch. I'm looking at force main MTA tracks.
Yeah, it's $3 million.
Yeah, which
Well,
is why we.
Maybe, yeah, I was
yeah.
originally,
I mean,
again,
19's a frightening year. I mean, it is what it is.
again, I say, how many years I've worked here and people have said this and, you know, Jerry has had the water main on for how many years and it
Well,
keeps
I
getting
mean,
bumped back, so.
Well, that's the whole thing, it's very hard for me when I hear the Alpine water tank is urgent, and-
Well, I don't know that anybody would say it's urgent,
But that's why I feel like it would be
but it's always
good-
been on the horizon.
Because we know we have to do it.
But no, I understand, but that's why I feel like it's important for us to be able to memorialize, you know, what was a priority in any given year and when they think that it absolutely must be done. Because right now, it's sort of like, oh, it's urgent, then it's not, then it's,
Well,
we need, I mean, no, I understand things change, but.
Right, and it changed because it got inspected, so Jerry moved it back from it being a
That's
project
fine,
that
even
was
if
for
in
the
his
year.
memo, he says in 2016 or 2017, I said it needed to be done in the next 3 years, we've now pushed it back
Alright,
5
so-
years because I've done an inspection and they feel it's not necessary for replacement. Even if that's all it says, so we can keep track of, you know, $1.5 to $3 million projects, cause we don't want it to be an emergency.
It's a huge.
Yeah.
And that's
You know?
1.5 is a lot different, obviously.
Than 3
And
million.
and again, but that's my problem, nailing anything down. So this is on the horizon, this is something we should know about, and as we start to develop and get, you know, this is his estimate, and he can tell you what the low and the high is on that, but, you know, where is it actually gonna come in? I'll go back to this downtown project. Go back and look at my prior budgets. I had it at $6 or $6.5 million for several years, and it came into 14.78. So it's hard for me to come up with a forecast until I have a set in stone number. And if you remember, I also talked about borrowing money for well over a year until we finally did, because I wouldn't borrow money until I had the number for the project, and it was a moving target for so long. And it's why we ended up withdrawing Mingle, because we just didn't know. There was a range between, are we going to refurbish it or are we going to knock it down? Well, there's a different price, so which am I gonna borrow for? I'm just gonna borrow for the highest amount and then pay interest on money that I don't need to borrow for, or what? And then when we realized the study, we didn't have the hydrology study, and so we said, well, we're not gonna borrow money years in advance and pay interest before that happened to us once. So we borrowed money, not me. In 2009, they borrowed money for sidewalks on Route 117 and had the multimodal grant for that, and that was the intention, where they were gonna put the sidewalks. Well, when it came down to it, they couldn't. They were gonna have to take too much land from people, and it was gonna be too expensive. So they said, okay, well, we can't do it. All right, so we reallocated the money to King Street and to Millwood, and we were able to shift the multimodal over to Millwood, which was great. And we're gonna use the money for the purpose that it was borrowed for. We borrowed it 9 years ago, and we don't have the sidewalks in yet.
Yeah.
So,
Alright, so,
One more we did.
so that's good, so now I know how to
Pictures
read
of it,
this.
that's,
And then I'll just separately do my own calculation knowing what it is. But I would like, especially for things that fall into the 2019, anything it's, $100,000 or less, or $250,000 or less, I don't really, that's something that we can discuss. If it's over a certain amount of money,
Well, what
Like,
would
I
be
think
your
it
over a
really-
certain amount?
I think,
400,000, yes, 500,000.
well, I mean, the force main is something that we funded 800,000 of all that already. So 2 years ago, when Jerry came to us and we had an excess of funds in water, we transferred $800,000 to the capital project, and it's sitting in there. Well, the project has changed multiple times since then, and I don't know where we are right now.
Fair enough.
And where, so 800,000 of it's funded. I know it's
but
changed.
then shouldn't we sort of, so when you say fund balance, SW fund, no.
Yes, that's what
Operating
I-
funding, so really what we should say is 800K funded,
Yeah,
balance TBD.
Well, no, because
Well, we don't know.
well, I know, but the TBD is whether or not we're going out for, a bond issuance or.
And it's to a certain extent, if for example, and I just don't hear it, but for example, in this particular case, this is a something that needs to be done before tenants move in, right? So this isn't like, the Alpine project
oh,
or
again,
highway
I was
improvements
I was
that we
told
can
this
bump it
project was
off.
gonna be completed last winter,
I know,
so.
I'm just saying, so all of a sudden, I don't wanna be in a
It's still here.
situation on a $3 million project where, we, as part of the budget process, let's just say, for example, there is no deal made with Con Ed or Verizon or the
Right.
utility companies,
Then
You
it's
know,
all
so
gonna
it's a-
come from fund balance,
it's all gonna come from fund balance,
or
so
we're
how
gonna
does
borrow
that?
more money. Well,
So,
Or how
well,
does that?
but I can't, I don't wanna go and, I don't know how many scenarios I can present to you that, okay, scenario A is if we have to pay for this whole thing out of fund balance, then here's what my projection is, or scenario B, if we have to pay for half of it, it's just too many variables
Well,
until I know the answer.
well, I mean, there's a worst case scenario and then there's like a best case scenario, which is 50% funding, I mean, I think
Well,
that's probably it.
So all the projects here, the worst case scenario is it wipes out our entire fund balance. That's
No,
the-
but not all the
that's what it would
projects.
do.
But it wouldn't happen because you wouldn't be able to pay for all
Well,
those.
we wouldn't.
I mean,
we
that's why I
wouldn't-
said the need to have and the
But-
want to have, so if this stuff falls under the need to have, then I think that Jerry needs to give us, as part of his presentation, kind of the options that he's got in place.
He does.
And he needs to also seriously give us a sense of the timing of the funding and the status of negotiations.
okay,
He
well,
does.
we have moved away from the force main, we are no longer doing that project.
So we're now going over the bridge?
That's
Good.
where we are just waiting for the engineering estimates to come in as to what that alternative
Costs.
cost will be. And sure hoping it's less than 3 million.
pretty sure it's less than
Yeah.
3 million.
Well,
It's less than 3
cost
million.
was the
Yeah.
railroad.
Was the
Yeah,
boring.
yeah, we're not doing
The-
that, and
the
that's why
significant
the
amount was the
timing of it
boring.
was so significant if we were to go straight across, the way I
a
understand
separation,
the
we get a
project
visual
would
of this?
now go, I'm sorry.
I just said a separate, do we get a visual of what it's gonna look like? I mean,
No, it's underneath the bridge, there's already pipes there.
You're not
oh,
supposed to see
you're not,
it,
you're not supposed to see it, okay.
yeah, it's supposed to be that sort of, that's my understanding.
So there's pipes, if you ever
We
go to the
can
end of
ask
the
tomorrow.
platform, look, you see
But
the pipes.
so my understanding now is that it would go along Allen Place, it would go up and over the bridge, and then he would use some of Conifer property to go alongside the building and access it. So I
Okay.
don't think, before we were talking
So
about
it's
doing this
before
huge
Conifer
pit.
pours foundation,
No, after.
after
I think they poured
foundation?
Yeah, because it's still going along the building and then, so in that tiny little grassy area,
Uh-huh.
right along there and then to the street and up.
Okay.
So that before we were doing this huge pit where,
Right.
not happening anymore.
Right, okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
far more modest excavation. I mean, that just.
Right, it was the boring, and it was because there were
Different soil types.
right, so some of it was more dense than others, and we had to
Yeah.
use different
No,
boring
and they were
heads
getting, all of a sudden, you're going under railroad tracks.
Right,
And
it can't-
if,
God
and if you had
forbid,
disturbed it by an
God
eighth of an
forbid,
inch, we were responsible. It's like, are you kidding? We're not doing
And
that.
didn't we have to have buses on
Buses on
standby in case
standby.
we affected the tracks that we could
In
bus
any way,
people
shape, or form.
at our
Yeah.
expense?
Yeah, we do.
No.
That electric shuttle put it to get used.
There we go.
Jeremy, how many
It's a
people
lot of
were at the train
trips
station
between here.
tonight with the electric shuttle handle that?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I think it took my poor husband 45 minutes to get out of the train station to get home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's why was the police officer out there directing traffic
Yeah,
coming out of?
one there and one there,
Yeah.
just to be able to get them out. All the
Yeah.
trains came
Alright,
up.
so, alright,
So that,
Thank you, Rob.
that was just what I wanted to talk about and just to give an update and to say that, based on, a projection I had given you almost a year ago, we're ahead of schedule for what I said, so.
That's tomorrow morning.
That's it tomorrow, you want it?
And again, all these numbers assume no increase in fund balance and you can't assume one, but
Right.
we typically have had one on.
And Howard, just because I won't be here when you go through it, how are the mortgage taxes coming in?
So sales tax is gonna be ahead of schedule again. Mortgage tax is tough to tell because you get 2 payments a year, one in June and one in December. The December one's always significantly higher. Last year, June was $450 and December was $900 or $875 or something like that. This year, June was below 4. It's the lowest one we've had since I've been around. So that scares me,
well, I'm sorry, and
the mortgage tax. So,
Sales are slowing down.
and I talk that I left that number steady for next year. I don't have faith in it with the change in the SALT deductions and interest rates rising and, I can
that's
see
gotta be
that.
countywide, statewide issue, not just.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
completely.
Well, it's definitely gonna be a Westchester County problem, and
Yes.
Long Island problem.
So,
Maybe not so much upstate New York.
right.
No, I don't think they did.
No, because a lot of them don't even reach that
Yeah,
level
the
of
threshold, so.
property tax.
So we haven't even hit 4, so what are we down, like 10%?
Like I say, it's hard to project because last year I didn't see that December number coming. So I thought, we had 450 or something in June, and I thought, okay, we get another 500, we'll hit my number of, or be close to my number, and then all of a sudden I got, when I opened the email, and it was 950 or 970.
You had
We're
that
like,
big
hey,
sale,
man.
$5 million sale, was that last year? or-
What's that?
Wasn't it the $5 million sale, or was that 2 years ago?
Oh, we had the one that was 16 million or whatever, but he paid cash for it, so we didn't.
What are you getting? Can you go to picker?
Yeah,
Singles?
Alright,
$2
so
bills?
in other words, can we maybe keep
Unmarked,
an eye
small,
on that?
washed,
absolutely.
snowed
Yeah.
like Downey.
Sales tax is good. I have, do I have 3 quarters? No, I only have 2 quarters in, but they're both, the second quarter was very strong, so it looks good.
Right. Thanks, Rob.
Alright, so we done for the day,
Yep.
Okay.
tonight, I mean,
Okay.
I
There
move
is gonna
to
be a
adjourn.
small work
Yeah,
session.
sales tax I have
Tonight or
almost
tomorrow?
1.4 in for the first 2 quarters, and the budget's 2.55, so.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And you got Christmas.
You guys see that email I
Yeah,
mentioned
just,
about the
quarters.
rain downtown Chappaqua pumpkin?
yeah, I didn't get a chance to respond to it, but,
What, pumpkins?
no, it wasn't pumpkins.
No.
I mean with
Yeah.
mums.
Mums, yeah.
Mums and the corn cob.
If you guys have no problem with that, I'd like to send an email to the merchants to see who wants to get involved.
And
Okay, that's great.
It's gonna cost like
And,
$1,000,
and legal
maybe
bills?
1,500.
Does anyone review them?
I did not review the emails yet. We'll do that tomorrow.
Do you need
So
them
that's
to be
tomorrow.
resent? Tell me what your story is.
No.
Nice.
No? Okay, you'll just go through your emails?
Yes, is Nick here tomorrow?
Yes, he's here tomorrow.
What, have
His
a nice
anniversary
evening.
tonight. Probably move to adjourn our work,
Second.
budget hearing. Whatever you want to call it.
Alright.
Aye.